Today, and by the way, happy Halloween, everyone. Happy Halloween. If you don't know who I am Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street. Yes, I guess I do need a shave specifically, but this took like several years to grow, so I'm not gonna shave it today. But yes, Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street, which is a horror movie, technically, and it's on my list. I have, of course, seen it, so we shall see where Sweeney Todd ranks in my reviews of 224 horror movies. It went up by 2 horror movies the other day because, hey, it's Halloween time, gotta watch more horror movies, so I did. I watched a couple that I had never seen before, including Train to Busan. Actually, wait, I guess I watched 3. Train to Busan, Videodrome, I think. Yeah, Drome. Videodrome, and Rosemary's Baby. Watched those 3 movies. So, yeah. Bing, bang, boom. All right. Let's set it to the Everything tab. Just going to wait for it to update on my end to make sure that this is working properly. Oh, I'm going to get hot in this costume. Oh, yeah. Let's get that. Okay, cool. It is working. Wonderful. So, everyone can see what we got going on here. Let me just make sure. All right, yep, we got everything set up. So as you can see, I have top 5 going on down there on the or up there on the upper right side, and then I also have the bottom 5. So as we go along, I will be adding movies to each of those sides, so we can eventually see what are my top 5 horror movies and what are my bottom 5 horror movies, because I for sure have some bottom 5 horror movies. Let me just adjust something real quick so that way I can see the chat as it arrives. Okay. I just want to make sure that I can see the messages. Cool. Okay. All right. Let's begin. Big marathon going through every horror movie I've ever seen. Let's do it. So, 10 Cloverfield Lane, starting off, first of all, we're going to be going in alphabetical order. So, of course, we start with numbers because numbers come before letters in the alphabet. So, yeah, 10 Cloverfield Lane. Yeah, this is a classic. I really enjoy this movie. I've actually never seen Cloverfield, the original, or the one that came after this. I purely wanted to see 10 Cloverfield Lane because I heard good things and that it was different from the original, so I didn't need to see the original. And yeah, obviously, John Goodman's performance in this movie is really what is the main takeaway. He is legitimately unnerving, creepy. He makes you severely uncomfortable throughout the whole thing. And it's fantastic. Also, I just realized it signed me out. Not sure why it did that. Here are my credentials. But yeah, you can follow me on Letterboxd. I believe that was my password. Maybe not. Ooh, okay. Yeah, you can follow me on Letterboxd so you can see every movie I've ever seen and all that. There we go. Okay, now we're signed in. There we go. But yeah, 10 Cloverfield Lane, yeah, very uncomfortable. One of those great, like, bottle movies. I don't know if that's the right term, but for TV, if an episode takes place primarily in one location with few characters, it's known as a bottle episode. It was used to save on budget and stuff. And this is one of those movies where it mainly takes place in an underground bunker, and Mary Elizabeth Winstead just wakes up, and she's got this guy watching her, and then this other guy who's being watched by John Goodman, and John Goodman's weird. He's very uncomfortable, and that's basically most of the movie. Yeah, 4 stars. Just overall, I really enjoy this movie every time I see it. The only thing that people have a problem with is the ending, which I can understand. It's a little tough when you build up the story a certain way, and also just what you're most interested in kind of ends up not being a part of the ending, so that's where it kind of goes down a little bit. I feel like if the ending was amazing, could have been a 4.5 star, but still very good. We're also going to need to speed run some of this stuff. I'm only going to stop on movies that I care about, and I'm probably going to be reviewing a lot longer early on. 1408. This is a surprisingly solid horror movie, actually. It's another bottle horror movie, or one location mainly. John Cusack, he stays in this hotel room. Let's see. Yeah, to debunk whether or not it's haunted or not. And most of the movie takes place in there. This is a trippy movie. This is some supernatural, mind-bending stuff, and I think it's actually really solid. I enjoy this movie a good amount. I'm not sure if this was a Stephen King novel or not. I don't know. But yeah, this is a good one. This is a solid flick from the 2000s as well. Kind of like this weird period where there was a lot of horror movies coming out, especially the paranormal stuff. There's a lot of that. So solid, 3.5 stars. 28 Days Later. Oh man, this is an all-time classic. This jump-started the modern zombie trend. It introduced fast-running zombies to the audiences abound. Before this, they were all slow, brain-eating ones. And then also the rules of how quickly you transform into a zombie. With 28 Days Later, it's within seconds, and that's insane. Yeah. Overall, I have a ton of respect for this movie. Like that's where a lot of my enjoyment honestly comes from. It is just the impressiveness, especially because this was low budget. It was shot on different cameras. I'm not exactly sure what kind of cameras, but they were a lot older and sort of like cheaper cameras, I think. And the editing is so frenetic and fast-paced. It is intense as hell. My only issue with the movie and why I can't rank it higher is it is a slow one, and the plot is very thin at times. I kind of struggle to stay fully engaged throughout the movie. There's a lot of lulls in it. But I think my favorite scene, there's a couple early on that are really good, but scene about 3/4 of the way through the movie, maybe 2/3, a certain character dies, and he dies in a very unique way, and it's heartbreaking. That scene is fantastic. I always think of that scene when I watch that movie. Ooh, 28 Weeks Later. Oh, man. So, I'm one of the few that prefers 28 Weeks Later over 28 Days Later. I know that's blasphemy. I understand. Obviously, my respect goes to 28 Days Later. I love 28 Weeks Later. I actually think it is a fantastic movie. It is different from the original. It has a much bigger, wide-ranging plot, lots of characters, bigger budget. But for a movie where basically the plot of this movie goes 28 weeks later, all the zombies starved to death, basically. In this world, zombies can starve to death. So Britain is quarantined. However, no zombies seem to be around. They're just making sure that the zombies don't get in. So that's already a unique premise. Like, wait, the zombies are all gone, so how does it come back? And it does in a very unique way. This movie is twisty-turny. You never know where it's headed. It is even more fast-paced, a lot going on. Yes, it's a little more action-y, but I think the action is done extremely well. There are so many scenes in this movie that stand out to me. The very beginning is one of my favorite beginnings to any horror movie ever. It is so intense, just like heart-pounding, crazy. And they also did shoot it similarly to the first movie with the sort of different cameras, fast-paced, frenetic editing. Jeremy Renner is in this movie, and he plays an awesome badass that is, of course, a sniper character, and this was before he was Hawkeye, so I guess this is, I wonder if the Marvel saw him in this movie, and they were like, he looks really good being up on a rooftop shooting with a sniper type thing. Let's give him a bow and arrow. The middle of the movie has a harsh shift, and the whole movie changes after that. That scene is insane as well. There's too many moments to count. I love this movie. So since this is our first 4.5 star movie, we're going to add it to the top 5. Boom, boom, boom. All right, we already got one in the top 5. Let's see what goes along with it. 30 Days of Night. I saw this movie a long time ago. This is cool because it's vampires, but the vampires act more like zombies. They're kind of mindless. They just attack and eat people, and that's it. And you slowly turn into a vampire, and it's this one town that, slowly everyone turns into vampires, basically. And it's one of those survival movies. And I thought it was solid. The ending is the biggest thing that stood out to me. The ending was ballsy and definitely kind of heartbreaking. Horror movies are great because you're never promised a happy ending, so you legitimately feel tense for the main character, especially because you do believe that they could die. And a lot of times the endings, sometimes they can be a little, they can kind of cheat, because sometimes the ending is too happy, or the ending is happy, but then, the bad guy's still alive, and it's like, great, so what was the point of the movie then if nothing changed? But then sometimes you get a really good ending, that definitely nails the tone right, and I think 30 Days of Night did a good job with that. Alien. Oh my god. So, like 28 Days Later, my respect for this movie is higher than my genuine enjoyment of it. This one's even slower. I definitely think this movie, for the first half of it especially, the pacing is extremely slow. I think I would have been more scared of this movie if I had seen it at a younger age. I mean, I went through a binge of so many horror horror movies from the ages of 10 to 14, and this one was one kind of when I was like 14 when I saw it. So I had already seen so many scary movies before this, and while yeah, I was scared in the last portion of the movie when the alien does show up, building up to it, I definitely was like, okay, all right. Like before they get onto the planet, it's a while. It's a while into the movie, and I think the pacing could have been upped a bit. But this movie's so impressive. I mean, the effects still hold up today. The alien is legitimately scary. Ripley's a great protagonist as well. She's sort of a surprise protagonist in this one. She doesn't seem like it at first in the beginning of the movie. But yeah, this one obviously all-time classic. I wish I could give it a higher ranking. Every time I watch it, I want to like it more, but I don't. Aliens. Now, I want to rewatch this. I've only seen it twice. It could end up being 4 stars because I do prefer it over Alien. My respect is more towards Alien, but Aliens, I think it's a fantastic sequel. It's definitely one of those widely known great sequels to horror movies, which is really hard to do. And yeah, while it is a little more actiony, it's still scary. It's still horrifying. The relationship between Ripley and Newt is really what you take away from this movie. The story, there's a lot more character development going on, a lot more engaging story as a whole. For Alien movies, I see that Canadian filmmaker. I've not seen Alien Romulus. In fact, I've only seen these 2 Alien movies because... Oh, no. I've seen Prometheus. My bad. Because from what I understand, these are the 2 best Alien movies and kind of the only ones that are great. A lot of the other ones people can either argue are underrated or, actually pretty good, like the newest one, Alien Romulus. I've also heard bad things about Alien Romulus. My issue... with a lot of horror sequels, franchises especially, and you'll see in my list, there's a lot of franchises I've seen that I either saw when I was a kid, so I just was binging them, or I haven't seen everything in the franchise. And the reason why is because, you go to a restaurant, you have a beautiful, beautiful meal, and you're nice and full, and then someone comes by and is like, would you like another meal that's not as good? It's like, no, I'm full. I'm good. I don't want to eat the whole cake. I'm good with the slice, So that's kind of how I feel about a lot of franchises because, in general, the best movies are kind of early on, usually the first one. It's Aliens, 3.5 stars, maybe 4 going on. American Psycho. So this one, I've seen it a couple times, and I've always wanted to enjoy it more, and I think I have. First time I saw it, I didn't get it, and I was kind of bored. And this isn't your typical horror movie. It's sort of a surprise horror movie where... the violence comes out of nowhere and is very quick. This one has a lot to unpack. There's a lot of really deep themes about capitalism, Wall Street, masculinity, also themes of individuality and sort of what it means to belong in a certain societal group and how you set yourself apart from others. This one's one of those movies that the themes I find more engaging to discuss with than actually watching the movie. There are sequences that are really great that certainly stand out. I love the scenes with Willem Dafoe. I think those scenes are really well done, and they were shot in a very unique way where basically Willem Dafoe's the detective character, and he's trying to sniff out if not Norman Bates. Why doesn't it say his name? Christian Bale. Anyway, he's trying to figure out if Christian Bale's the killer or not. And they shot those scenes in 3 different ways. In one way, Willem Dafoe has no idea, and it's just chill. Then they shot those scenes another way where he's suspicious, and then they shot another way where he knows that he is the killer, which is fun because it makes those scenes twisty-turny. Nick Productions, Aliens over Alien. Yeah, I know a lot of people that prefer Aliens over Alien, and I think they're both different enough that they both stand out. An American Werewolf in London. This one was fun. I watched it a couple years ago. Don't really remember a whole lot. It was funny. It was actually genuinely kind of funny at times. And the werewolf transformation scene is amazing. It's the most standout scene. Patrick Bateman. There we go. Yeah, Norman Bates, Patrick Bateman. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, American Werewolf in London, horror comedy. And also the whole last act of that movie is pretty surprising. Definitely takes a huge turn, which is one of those things that makes sense in hindsight, but, still surprising because it goes against the typical plot and character structure of a movie. All right. 10 Little Indians, also known as And Then There Were None. This is one of the all-time classics. And actually, this is not the one that I saw. I saw the 1940s one. That's interesting. I accidentally have the wrong one on there. There we go, 1945. This is the one that I saw. I think I probably gave it like 3 stars or something like that. That's interesting. Ha! All right, let's see. Yeah, okay. I have not seen this. There's activity on it? That's confusing. All right, whatever. It's not updating. Anyway, I saw the 1945 version, not the 74 version. But 1945 version, yeah, obviously very old movie. You know, it's one of those all-time classic mystery movies. You've probably seen parodies of it everywhere. The parody that I saw was a Family Guy one, and then there were fewer. Yeah, the ending's pretty surprising, actually. The twist endings are really well done. You don't expect them. It's really fun just to see one by one people dying off, and you're kind of hoping certain characters make it longer than others. And yeah, it's overall pretty enjoyable watch, especially if you're in the mood to watch an older horror movie. Annihilation. Saw this one pretty recently. Yeah, this one was cool. You know, the main thing that I heard about this movie is that it was an underrated movie that not a lot of people saw, and it's also stars all women, and it wasn't a big deal that it starred all women, because sort of back in the mid-2010s, that was sort of the trend, especially with the Ghostbusters remake, where it was like, this movie stars women, so you have to see it. Annihilation, though, is not one of those movies. It just happens to star women, but it is really well done. Sort of like Arrival a bit, if you've seen Arrival, which we will get to. If that's horror, I don't think that is horror. Never mind, we probably won't see Arrival. Annihilation is definitely more horror sci-fi. Anyway, it's similar to Arrival in the sense that it is very believable in the way that the sci-fi alien-esque plot is inserted into real world. It's believable. And also the just entering this other world and diving right in is really cool. This is another one of those, you know, group of survivors, one by one, they're kind of all dying off. I kind of think that once we're getting to the end of the movie, I was sort of like, okay, I'm trying to understand what the point is now. Like, because when you get to the end of a movie, it's like, all right, what was the point of this movie? And this one kind of gets a little loosey-goosey for me, sort of losing a little bit of interest as we're getting deeper into the movie. The ending's kind of confusing. But overall, it was fun. It was a good watch for sure. Antichrist. Oh boy. All right. We're getting into weirder ones now. Weirder ones that I'm sure some of you guys have not seen. So yeah, this one's a messed up movie. I would put this under the category of disturbing horror movies, which we will see some disturbing horror movies in this list. Antichrist, of course, Lars von Trier. This guy, he's a different kind of filmmaker, a lot more experimental. And willing to just dive into the darkest depths of humanity. This one does that. I think I'm still not the biggest fan of, you know, experimental movies and sort of going outside of mainstream. Sometimes it just doesn't work for me. This one, I have respect for it, and there are sequences that definitely stand out to me. But it's a little tough to stay engaged at times. The plot, there is a plot, it's pretty thin, and it's not a plot that tells you what's going on ever. You kind of have to be locked in and just, you know, it's more about the emotion, I think, and the feeling than necessarily what is actually going on. What is the information being presented to me? Pretty messed up scenes in this one. Pretty crazy. It's disturbing for sure. I guess because it's, sure, I'll add it, even though it's not, you know, the worst horror movie I've ever seen. It was a 2-star, so let's just add it to the list of bottom 5. It will not be in the bottom 5, though. Don't worry. I got movies that are ranked lower. Okay. Army of Darkness. Seen this one only once. I've seen the entire Evil Dead trilogy once. This one's wacky, of course, because it's barely horror. It's more of a medieval fantasy action adventure comedy. It's a ton of genres, honestly. It's fun. It's wacky. I want to see it again. It's been a long time. It's one of those campy, low-budget horror movies that just, like, doesn't care about really selling the moments at times. It's just like, nah, nah, screw it. We're just gonna have fun, you know? Very tongue-in-cheek. Sam Raimi at his best in the 90s. And of course, Bruce Campbell, they were a great star duo. That's why Bruce Campbell is in every Spider-Man movie, giving a little cameo. Yeah, this one's fun. Yeah, there's not much else to say, honestly. It's just a fun watch. I want to see it again. Maybe it could be 3.5 stars. Audition. We got another disturbing horror movie, ladies and gentlemen. We got another one. Audition has a very unnerving scene. In fact, when I was 12 years old, someone explained to me, it was an adult, because I was telling him, hey, I'm watching all these horror movies. And he said, Audition, watch Audition. That one's messed up. Which in hindsight is pretty hilarious that an adult told a 12-year-old boy, watch Audition. I actually didn't see Audition for years because it was hard to find. But eventually, I did find it. I watched it. And yeah, it was pretty disturbing, pretty messed up. This one, I had a little bit of difficulty staying engaged, especially in like the first half. You know, I'm kind of like, eh. But then, yeah, you get the twist going on, and the second half is really messed up. Oh yeah, Canadian filmmaker. Medieval Dead would have been better. That would have been a better title for Army of Darkness, without a doubt, because a lot of people didn't even realize that Army of Darkness was a sequel to Evil Dead 2. Yeah, Medieval Dead would have been way better. But yeah, Audition, definitely just crazy messed up. I'd wish it was a little bit more engaging, though, and also that the plot was a little thicker. It kind of gets a little thin and just sort of... The disturbing scenes are what the movie sells itself on once you're in the latter half. There are some good themes going on there, but I think there could have been a little bit more done, possibly. Load. Oh, God. August Underground's Mordum. We're just going to add it. Just going to add it now. Just get it on the list. Ringu, we will get to Ringu. It'll be a while because we're going in alphabetical order, but we will get to it at some point, Nick Productions. Yeah, so August Underground's Mordum. I went through a binge a couple years ago trying to discover the most messed up horror movie I possibly could, because when I was young, I saw a Serbian film and it messed me up, and then I thought, is there worse out there? And yeah, there is. We'll get to them. But what I found mostly is that a lot of messed up, disturbing horror movies, it's just shock value. That's it. There's no plot. There's no themes, real characters to latch onto. Like, there is nothing about some of these movies that actually make them a movie beyond, hey, we have people pretending to be other people, and we have a camera, and sometimes music, and then we have effects. August Underground's Mordum, one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life. That's why it's half a star. It's barely a movie. They basically, if you think about anything that is messed up and violent, any amount of torture, whatever you can think of that's messed up, it's all in this movie. They push it to such an insane degree that it's nauseating. I felt sick while watching this movie, and I'm pretty good at resisting, like, oh, I feel sick in my stomach, oh my god, that's so gross. Like, I've seen gross stuff. This one pushed it to such a degree, though, where I was just like, Jesus Christ, dude. Yeah. Don't watch this movie. I kind of think it will just ruin your day. It's awful. The Babadook. Oh, yeah. So this one was one of those classics. When it first came out, everyone was like, yo, this is the next greatest, scariest horror movie ever. And while my opinion has slightly soured over the years, like back when I first watched it, this was 4.5 stars, easily. It was like my favorite horror movie for a bit, until another one came out, which we will get to. But yeah, The Babadook, solid, awesome themes. This is the type of horror that I love, where... a character is going through a lot of personal issues. Oh, Jenna, I'm Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street. For anyone who just joined, that is my costume. Gonna slice and dice, give people a shave. But yeah, The Babadook. Yeah, for people who are going through trauma, grief, horrible mental state, and the horrors that can rise from that. Because it's a movie, you're gonna push it to a fantasy degree. but a lot of it is just reflective of what the person is going through, and hopefully they reach a sort of catharsis that helps them move on from their issues. And that is the type of horror that I want to make and the type of horror that I love, and the Babadook is just like that. This is also one of those carefully crafted atmospheric horror movies that is not about the jump scares or even the music at times. A lot of it is just a quiet jump scare. There's one in particular when the main character is looking out the window and she's washing dishes and she sees an old lady across, in the other house, and when she looks up again, there's something behind her. And there's no music cue or anything. It's one of those quiet jump scares, and it gets me. It's so good. So yeah, The Babadook, awesome horror movie. It's 4 stars. We've already passed a couple 4 stars, but this is definitely my favorite 4-star movie that we've come across so far. We'll just add it to the list just to, grow these lists as we go along. They will be changing as we find better and worse horror movies with the bottom 5. Barbarian. Yeah, we'll add this one already. This one's a good one. Let's add it. So yeah, Barbarian, another one. A couple years ago, everyone was talking about it. And yeah, it's solid. It's a great twisty horror movie. You never know where this thing's headed. Also, surprising comedy at times. And because it's so twisty-turny, it's sort of like 3 different horror movies mixed together. Like every time there's a certain twist or shift in the story, it sort of changes the way that it's presenting itself as a horror movie, because a lot of times, you have the quiet, slow burn horror movies, you have the intense survival horror movies, you have the crazy actiony horror movies, you have the disturbing, messed up horror movies. There's a lot of different tones that you can go for. This one is all over the place. It has a lot of fun. And yeah, it's a solid flick. I like it. Barbarian, very good. The Birds. I need to see this one again. I did not like it the first time I saw it, but that's because I was a dumb kid. Alfred Hitchcock, of course, one of the all-time greats. Yeah, The Birds. Not super engaging from my memory. It's been a while since I've seen it. The Birds are goofy. I think that's the main issue with this movie for me. Maybe in the 60s it was scary, but I don't know. Like now, before Birdemic, of course, obviously there's references there. But this one, the birds just aren't scary, kind of goofy. It's sort of like, because it's one of those like apocalyptic survival movies, but it takes a while to get there. And then once it's happening, you're just not really scared. You're not really that tense. And I'm not attached to the characters a ton. But I got respect for it, of course, Oh my goodness, I just clicked on an ad. Oops. I'm gonna get malware now. All right, page 2 out of 13. We're moving along. Look at us. We're a half hour in. Actually, here, let me go to the chat real quick just to see some messages. Unknown End, I'm not an active fan of horror, but I will enjoy once in a while if it's interesting. That's awesome. That's awesome. I've had a lot of people who are just like, I can't do horror movies. They're scary. And it's like, that's the point. But, to each their own. Oh, Jenna, your boyfriend hates Barbarian with a passion. You don't know why. It's always funny, because that happens a lot, too. I'll talk to people, and they'll love a certain horror movie that I hate, or they'll hate a movie that I love, and I'm just like, dude. But, that's what art's about. Everyone kind of takes away some kind of different interpretation. Some of us, we dive really deep into an art form. For me, it would be movies, especially horror movies, so I try to see as many as I can, and I, critique them, because I've seen so many, so I'm able to kind of compare and contrast. Also, I just realized a Serbian film. We just passed the A's. Where's a Serbian film? Is that not horror? Hold up. That's horror. That's horror as hell. Genres. Horror. Huh. Oh, maybe it's under S? Well, spoiler alert, 2.5 stars. We'll get to it. Which I know is crazy that I ranked it 2.5 stars. We'll maybe get to it. Let's see. Oh, yeah, I wonder what came out in 2018. We shall see. Maybe once we get to the H's. Really am trying to get fully into horror movies now. But yeah, anyway, back to my point. Yeah, there's always different perspectives to take away. I've learned that, the second time you watch a movie is very different from the first because you know what to expect. I have a lot of enjoyment watching a movie that I've heard is really good and I know is really good and well respected. And maybe I saw it when I was younger and I didn't like it, but I decided to watch it now just to give it another chance. I had an entire Stanley Kubrick binge like earlier this year. and I ended up enjoying every movie that I saw, and especially the ones that I didn't like the first time I saw them, I really liked them the second time. In fact, there is a horror movie on here, which we will see, had a glow up. I've watched it maybe 4 times, and it had a great glow up. We shall see once we get to the S's. All right, back to the movies. Black Christmas. This one I watched recently. Last couple of days. The OG slasher. Yeah, Psycho. It's known as the one that invented the slasher genre. I don't really see it that way, because to me, the slasher genre primarily is a killer going around slowly killing off a ton of people. And Psycho's not that at all. Very different movie. Yes, there is a psycho who kills people in that movie, but it's not the same sort of structure as the typical slasher movie. Black Christmas is that. Halloween is very much inspired by Black Christmas. Halloween, of course, is the most famous slasher of all time and the one that popularized it, but Black Christmas started it first. This movie was great, actually, for what it was going for. The characters are legitimately engaging. Some of the shots that they got in this movie are really well done. There's a POV shot where the killer is climbing and we see his hands, and I'm like, this is 1974, low budget. How'd they do that? He's climbing really high up, all one take, and you got a camera, like, how impressive. Very impressive. And only thing that kind of held me back from liking this movie more is it drags a bit. And at times you're kind of like, okay, what's really going on here? I'm kind of losing interest a bit. Like, I get it. People are dying off, but people are acting a little dumb now. Very fun twist at the end, though. Really good ending. Really good ending. Part of me wants to bump this up to 3.5, actually. I'm going to be nice. Bump it up to 3.5. That ending kind of gave it a 0.5 star boost already. I'll do that. Boom. Black Phone. This is one of those movies that everyone seemed to love. I did not love this movie. Is it a solid horror movie? Sure. It's serviceable. I think it does things relatively well. But, hot take here, if Ethan Hawke wasn't in this movie, people would not care a ton. I actually found it disappointing what Ethan Hawke was given. Obviously, Ethan Hawke is a really good actor, and he has starred in horror movies. Sinister is the big one. But I don't think he was given enough in this movie to actually pull off the whole, hype of, oh, you have an A-list actor playing the villain in a horror movie, a low-budget horror movie. Cool. That means they're gonna, they needed a really good actor. No, you didn't really. He's not given enough to do. The mystery of the Black Phone and why it works the way it does and who is this mysterious masked guy. I think the answers that we're given, if we're given any answers, are not that interesting. Things are a little disconnected. And just, I just could not really stay that engaged with this one. I was a little let down from it. However, the main kid and his sister, those actors were really good. The sister was hilarious. She actually made me and the audience bust out laughing multiple times. She was a little savage. Scott in Hell, Black Christmas, how a lot of the most intense scenes have no music and all you hear is the sounds of the killer. It just makes it much more unnerving. Exactly. Go-to rule for horror is less is more. So if you're going to be having a scary scene, sometimes just letting the scene play out in silence is scarier than loud music. Black Swan. I need to see this one again. It could be 4 stars when I rewatch it. This one... another Natalie Portman movie. Maybe the first time we've seen a repeat actor on here before. Annihilation, now Black Swan. We'll see a couple more. We'll see Ethan Hawke again. Black Swan, yeah, another good psychological one. Really mind-bendy, reflective of her desperation and perfectionism to achieve the perfection in her art. And yeah, just pretty unnerving, just well done overall. I like this one. I want to see it again. Could be 4 stars. Blair Witch Project. So I saw this one a little bit older. I wasn't that young when I saw this one, so I was expecting to not like it because some people kind of, it's maybe not aged the best because when it came out, this blew up. I mean, it was the one that popularized the found footage genre. The entire underground marketing campaign made it seem like it actually was real, and that's what really messed with people. But I had a pretty good time watching it. I actually got locked in a bit. I think found footage works on me, especially if it's done well. And this one was believable. I think the reason why this one works so well is that it isn't trying to cut out the fat too much. It allows itself to be realistic in the fact that they would just kind of be filming stuff sometimes, and maybe some of that stuff isn't particularly engaging, but because it's being played off like it's real, it adds to the actual tensity of, oh, this is real. This isn't following a typical plot structure or, you know, movie pacing. It's not trying to manipulate me into feeling something. It's just presenting itself like found footage. And I think it does a really good job of that. And the ending's really cool. The entire just conclusion, the closing image is very famous. That is a creepy final image. Bone Tomahawk. I'd add this one to disturbing list a little bit. The violence gets really hardcore. A Western horror movie. Maybe the only one on here. I can't name many Western horror movies. Old West. This is one of them. My God. This one's pretty cool. It's a slow burn at first. There's not, you would not, like, the very beginning, it's like, ooh, this is a horror movie. And then it's not a horror movie for like an hour and a half. And then it's a horror movie hardcore at the end. That's really where this movie sells itself. Once we get to the real ending. So basically the plot structure of this movie is they live in a small town in the Old West, and there is a cannibal tribe that's nearby and kidnaps some people. So 4 men, including the sheriff, Kurt Russell, set out to go save the people of the town. And, oh boy, gets really messed up at the end. Pretty crazy. That one's really good at surprise violence, very impactful violence. Bride of Chucky. We're not going to add this to the bottom 5, even though it's 2 stars, because I've only seen it once. I watched all the Child's Play movies in a row when I was a kid. The only one that I've seen multiple times is the first one. Bride of Chucky, when I first watched it, I didn't like it at all, but maybe I'd appreciate it second time around, because it's finally the one that decided to be different, because by the third one, the formula had grown stale, and this one also jumped into comedy territory, and maybe that's why I didn't like it when I was a kid, because I was like, this isn't scary anymore. And it's like, it's not really supposed to be scary. It's kind of supposed to be funny. But, I mean, if you're a kid and you look at this poster, that's horror. So, I don't know. But that was just me as a kid. But this one's very silly. Yeah, there's not a whole lot that I can say about this one. I just want to watch it again. Give it a fairer ranking. Bride of Frankenstein. The original. Considered maybe better than the original sequel of horror movies, or at the very least, a really well done horror sequel. Bride of Frankenstein is very solid, actually. It's pretty surprising how well it works. The main thing, well, so the themes of the original Frankenstein, most people know about them. Primarily, the themes are what actually is humanity, and can a dead thing that's come to life retain some form of humanity? Can humanity be taught, or is it something that is intrinsically, we are born with? But then also, and it's nurture versus nature. That's really what the themes are. And then this one adds some more to it. They explore Frankenstein even more. I'm trying to remember. I think this one at first kind of feels like a retread of the original a bit, but then it dives deeper, and then you have the entire bride element, which is like the ultimate form of humanization, because humans are social creatures. Once you find someone and you stay, you feel like 2 parts of a whole. So that's the themes explored with this one. Only letdown, which is pretty surprising for people who have not seen this movie. The bride ain't in it a lot. She does not show up till the end. But it's cool when she arrives. Bride of Frankenstein is a classic, Nick Productions. Yes, it is. Cabin in the Woods. I saw this one once when I was like 16. It's fun. It's very good at parodying horror movies. It's very well done at that. Maybe if I watched it again, I give it 3 stars. 2.5 seems a little harsh. You know what? Yeah, that's a little harsh. I'll bump it up to 3. Maybe 2.5. Nah, 2.5. I'll take it back. I think that before you get to the really well done parody of horror movies, the first half just feels like retread. And I get it, that's the point. It's supposed to be set up like a typical slasher, and then there's the fun comedic twist. But I think it could have been a little bit more done to actually get us attached to the characters more, and play around with that retread better. Yeah, it's fun. Of course, if you're a big horror person, then you're gonna get all of the references that happen in this movie. Very fun. But yeah, I've never really loved this one. I've always kind of felt it was a little overrated, and maybe that's why my ranking isn't 3 stars. I'm sure my enjoyment of the movie at the time is closer to 3 stars, but then sort of just my overall takeaway, and when I think about it, I kind of have to bump it down slightly. But as you can see also, when it comes to ranking movies, 2.5 is not bad to me. 2.5 is perfectly in the middle. Just, it's okay. I kind of, sort of liked it, sort of didn't, in the middle. That's how I rank movies. I don't really stick with, this is a good movie, 4 stars. It's like, no, 4 stars means I actually really enjoyed the movie. And 5 stars, I think I only have 17 5-star movies, and I have over 800 movies logged on Letterboxd. So that's sort of a way you can tell how I rank movies. So 2.5 isn't bad. All right, Candyman. Saw this one fairly recently. I knew about it, of course. It's one of the classics, and one of the last good slasher movies before they got rebooted into comedy meta slashers with Scream. And it was underrated because of that. Not many people saw Candyman when it first came out. And Candyman it's sort of a slasher, I guess, but the structure of the movie is a little different from it being a slasher, and the Candyman character is very different. He has a lot more going on with him. This one has very deep themes. I'm trying to remember all the themes. I mean, obviously there are themes of race, gentrification, poverty, just general class systems, and sort of how crimes that happen in lower income areas are often ignored. They're not treated seriously. And the tragedy of that, sort of lost souls. And Candyman is representative of the ultimate lost soul that is taking revenge. But revenge that is doesn't discriminate. It's just pure rage and violence just unleashed on the world whenever he is summoned because he is not believed. So, as you just saw, there's really cool stuff to talk about with this movie, and that's why I have it at 3 stars. My actual enjoyment of the movie and engagement, I wish there was more. I wish I could have stayed more engaged. But, yeah. Oh, and the bees. The way they shot the bees, that's a big thing you'll take away from this movie, because it's all real. I mean, yeah, they sort of like sedated the bees a bit so that way they wouldn't sting, but they stung him, and he had them in his mouth, like dozens, maybe hundreds in his mouth at times, and yeah, he got stung. I think there was a thing in his a clause in his contract that for every bee sting he suffered, he would get paid a certain extra amount of money, so he made that money. And no, I did not see the remake. I was very interested in seeing it, but then I heard bad things, and I was like, I don't want to. Sometimes I like to just leave it as, no, I've seen the original. I don't want to see a remake that sounds like it's not as good as the original. I just want to think about the original, because also I hadn't seen the original yet by the time the remake was coming out. I was like, well, I'm going to watch the original first. I want to give it its due. It's the original. It deserves it. Cannibal Holocaust. Oh boy, let's add that one to the list. Yeah. One of the all-time classic disturbing horror movies. And maybe the first, I mean, maybe it's not the first, but certainly the first that comes to mind for found footage. Before Blair Witch Project, Cannibal Holocaust. This one, messed up, of course, crazy violence, actual on-camera animal murder, which is pretty crazy. They kill a tortoise, I believe. And yeah, maybe because I've already seen so many horror movies that this one just didn't get to me as much. It's a slow burn. I had trouble staying engaged. Yeah, it gets really crazy at the end. Very violent, pretty disturbing, pretty messed up, but it's not much to latch on to with this one for me. I just did not stay that engaged, didn't really care about the characters a whole lot. Couldn't even tell them apart half the time. It was one of those movies where I was just like, all right, unfortunately I'm waiting for the violent scenes to happen. And that usually means, I mean, to me, if you're watching a horror movie and all you care about and all you're waiting for is the scary stuff, the violent stuff, that's almost like, oh, the cake is coming out, I can't wait to eat the icing. It's like, okay, yeah, the icing's cool, but the point of it, you know, the story, the characters, that's the cake. That's what should be good, because if it's not, then all you got is icing, and after you have a couple licks of icing, you kind of feel bleh. And that's how this movie made me feel. Bleh. 1.5 stars. Carrie remake. Okay, so I know I just went on a whole spiel about Candyman, and maybe that's why I went on that spiel about Candyman, because when this movie came out in 2013, I don't know why, but I saw it in theaters. I had never seen the original. I still haven't seen the original Carrie. I've, of course, seen the entire climax of that movie and everything, because it's very famous scenes. But yeah. You know, it's a 2010s remake of a classic, so it's gonna kind of dumb things down. It's gonna have a lot more music in places where, you know, it wasn't in the original. It's going to try and update the themes to today, and it's not gonna feel as original and kind of feel a little generic, and that's kind of what this one was. Maybe I saw it because I'd seen Kick-Ass and Chloe Grace Moretz was really blowing up, and I was like, oh, she's in a horror movie? All right, yeah, I'll check this out. Seemed like a good role for her. And like, yeah, she did a pretty good job. Julianne Moore did a good job as well, but, you know, at the end of the day, this probably would have been better if it was its own original horror movie instead of treading off of the namesake of the original classic. Child's Play. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. All right. When I was 5 years old, my parents and I were walking down the mall. That was like our favorite thing to do. We go into Spencer's. I guess they didn't really know what Spencer's was, especially the back part of Spencer's, which I never got to go to when I was little. But 5 years old, we're at the register, and I look up, and I see a Chucky doll, and he's got all the stitches on him and the knife. He's the scary version. And I'm like, Mommy, what's that? And she's like, oh, that's Chucky. He's a doll from a movie. And I'm like, oh, what's the movie? And she was like, it's called Child's Play. I want to see it. You're not watching Child's Play. That became my obsession. I wanted to watch Child's Play. Every now and then my dad would be flipping around the channels and, oh, Child's Play's on. And I remember the first scene I saw was the battery scene, when the mom checks the doll and it's talking. She flips it over, she opens a little pouch on the back, and there's no batteries in him. And then suddenly the head twists and it's talking, and it turns into this whole scary scene. That freaked me out. I think I was like 8 years old when I saw that. And I don't know why. I just wanted to see Child's Play so badly, all throughout my childhood. And I think that's how, you know, horror was always just a thing I was interested in. Nature versus nurture. My nature was horror. I don't know what else to say. And finally, I ended up watching Child's Play on YouTube. Back when I first, you know, discovered what YouTube was, I was 11 years old, and that was back when people just uploaded entire movies to YouTube, but you had to do it in 10-minute increments because videos couldn't be longer than 10 minutes at the time, and no copyright or anything. It was on there. So every day after school, before my parents would get home, I would sneak into my room and sneak and watch some Child's Play, watch like 20 minutes, and then they'd get home, and I'm like, all right. And then I'd watch another 20 minutes the next day. And then one day my dad came in, and I didn't close the window in time, and he was like, oh, what you watching? And I was like, Child's Play. He was like, does Mom know about this? And I was like, no. He was like, all right, let's keep it that way. And that was that. And I finished watching Child's Play then. Boom. And I really did love it when I was younger. It's definitely aged over the years, which is why it's only 3.5 stars. But I gotta give a lot of nostalgia points to this movie. It's the original horror movie that I wanted to see. Also, Tom Holland directed it. I don't even think Tom Holland was born yet. Pretty sure he was born in like the year I was born in. That's crazy. Tom Holland. Wow. Let's see some comments real quick. Yeah. For Child's Play, of course, the original is the classic. It's the only one that's actually scary, because that's messed up a lot of people. I've met a lot of women that are just like, dolls. Nope, creepy dolls. Can't do it. And Chucky was the original. Pretty cool. Come on. Child's Play 2. So yeah, I only saw this one once, a long time ago. As far as I know, it's kind of just a retread of the original. That's it. It's cool that the original kid actor comes back and he's a little bit older, but just not a whole lot to go off of. It's just kind of Chucky comes back and that's it. I don't really remember a whole lot. Child's Play 3, even worse. Just, again, same thing. I think they twisted up a bit, and Andy, I think is his name. Is the character's name Andy? Yeah, Andy right there. He's in a military school, so, okay. And he's somewhere else. He's not at home now, but, yeah. I remember as well, it was just like, man, they keep coming up with crazy excuses to bring back Chucky, which is a classic for every slasher franchise. Like, all right, how does a killer come back to life? He's going to come back to life. How does he do it? And, you know, Child's Play 3 is like, okay, this isn't scary anymore. It's just retreading stuff. And then that's where they did Bride of Chucky. Climax. All right. My good friend Spencer showed me this movie. This movie's pretty crazy. Pretty wacky. It's experimental in the sense that the structure is very different. It's a foreign film. Quickest way to describe. Halfway through the movie, the title card comes up. And that's also when the entire movie changes. The first half of the movie is a slow burn. You're kind of like wondering where this is headed. And then suddenly that second half, boom, it's crazy. Really well directed and shot. The camera's doing all kinds of fun, wacky stuff in this one. Very mind-trippy, nightmarish. Just, yeah, very enjoyable second half to this movie. I want to watch it again now that I know what the second half is, so I can see the sort of hints and build-up of the first half. Yeah. And I think I could see it going up beyond 3 stars as well. The Conjuring. All right. Like The Black Phone, I'm a hot take person with this movie, and a lot of movies like it. Conjuring is a lot of people's like top 5 horror movies of all time. For me, I find a lot of those people don't actually watch a ton of horror movies. Maybe I'm a little gatekeepy with it. I hate it when people are gatekeepy, but if I'm going to be gatekeepy about something, it's going to be horror. But, you know, first things first, The Conjuring is a pretty good movie. It is pretty well done. The scares are good. The hand clap, very well done. That's one of those great non-music jump scares. The plot is cool as well. Paranormal investigators going into a house trying to save this poor family. I think that I'm not as attached to the characters or story as I could be. And it's my problem with movies like this is how the movies are structured. You have scary horror scene, then you have plot character scene, then scary horror scene, plot character scene, bing, boom, bing, boom. And most of the time, it's so clear they care about the scary scenes more. When you get to the plot character scenes, it feels like, all right, let's get past this. Yeah, I know we have to do this. It's a movie. Let's get people, blah, blah, blah. But let's get to why people came to watch this movie, the icing. And that's why I don't love these movies, because to me, the icing's well done for the most part, but I want the cake to be better. I want to actually be more drawn in. And a lot of people say that the cake is really good with this one. I personally don't love the cake as much. And also just the treading. Every scene is sort of structured the same way. Every horror scene is, wait, is something wrong? And then we have a slow burn until the jump scare, and that's it. And if it's predictable, it ain't gonna surprise me. And if it's not surprising, it's not gonna scare me. And Jenna, interesting, the sequel, let's get to the sequel. I didn't like the sequel as much. The sequel, to me, again, it's a retread of the original. However, I think the scares are more effective. I do remember this one scaring me a fair amount. The Nun especially, it's why she got her own movie. The Nun was scary. The painting scene especially was cool. But again, it's the same structure for me. Same structure. Oh, Nick Productions, you have a friend who was an extra in The Conjuring 2. That's epic. That's awesome. Also, this one has I forget the name of him, but the really long, skinny, stop motion creature guy. That was creepy, but that one kind of also. I think another thing that always takes me out of these movies is I never understand what the ghosts, demons really want and why they don't just do what they want right away. Why do they have to toy around and mess with people? And also why they do it in so many different creative ways. Where it's like, all right, what are even the rules of this thing now? I don't understand. Why is it this slow burn? And then why is the nun behind the painting running? Like, it's a cool image. It's scary, but I don't really get why it's actually happening, I guess. It doesn't really make sense to me. And yeah, that's sort of my opinion of The Conjuring 2. Maybe I'll watch them again at some point, but I just remember not loving it. Coraline. Coraline's solid. This is a solid, fun, stop-motion movie. Great atmosphere. This one's really great on the tone, especially for a movie that's, like, on the surface a kid's movie. It's creepy. Creepy as hell. The button eyes, they creep me out. They're really cool. The entry in another world. Also great themes of, you know, appreciating the life that you have, and sort of the twists and turns of a life that is perfect and given to you. Yeah, I like Coraline. Coraline's kind of universally really liked. Look at those rankings. People love it. Solid. I like it. It's 4. I won't add it to top 5 though. It's not top 5 worthy, even though the top 5 will change. Page 3. My bad. Oh my God. Oh, we got some good ones on here. Dawn of the Dead remake. All right. It's one of the few remakes that actually nails it. 28 Days Later introduced fast zombies. I would say Dawn of the Dead remake really popularized the fast zombie craze. I think this is what really jump-started the zombie craze because, yeah, zombies were really big with George A. Romero in the 70s and 80s. But then, you know, they kind of died out. And then 2000s uprising. And then ever since this movie especially, all the video games. Dead Rising in 2006, Call of Duty Zombies and Left 4 Dead in 2008, Dying Light in the 2010s. The Walking Dead, of course, blew up. The comics were in the 2000s. I read the comics before the TV show ever came out. And then, of course, the TV show came out and sent zombies to the full mainstream. Everyone was watching The Walking Dead, just all of it. Dawn of the Dead remake. I kind of think that's what really pushed it. This is just great. It's a great movie, very engaging, very fun, exciting, well done. Some really great scares, some hardcore stuff too. There's a scene involving a infected pregnant woman that happens in the middle of the movie. That's pretty crazy. And also Zack Snyder. I think it's Zack Snyder's maybe his best movie. I think really well done. I like that one. I like Dawn of the Dead, classic. You know, I'll even add it to the top 10 for now, just because I like it so much. It will be pushed out, though, of course. And you know what? I might as well just add it now, just for fun, because I do have so much nostalgia and respect for the original Dawn of the Dead. Let me make sure all that lines up properly. Boom! There we go. Look at that. Nice and pretty. It will change, though. Do not worry. It will change. Dawn of the Dead, the original. God, this is so much fun. I've seen this movie a lot. I really like this movie. This, to me, like, Night of the Living Dead is, of course, the OG zombie movie. There were zombie movies before it, but no. When you think about zombies, Night of the Living Dead is what started it. Night of the Living Dead, though, for me, is so low budget and so simple that at times it does just drag and is not that engaging, and the plot is super paper thin. Also, when I was young, I hated the ending, but now I love the ending because it's the most talk about moment of the movie. There's so much to talk about with that. Dawn of the Dead is a full package. This movie's fun. This movie's great. It sets up so many classics. The Mall. When you think about the Mall, you know, Dead Center and Left 4 Dead, Dead Rising takes place in a mall. Whole reason the mall became a zombie place is because of Dawn of the Dead. And Dawn of the Dead has really great themes because back then there was still, you know, even now, there's still a lot of question of, you know, what is humanity as a nature versus nurture, and when, you know, zombies are around and people are undead, do they retain any of their original selves? And with Dawn of the Dead, the original, it was the height of the mall craze in the 70s. Everyone was going to the mall, and mysteriously, all the zombies go to the mall. And yeah, the mall makes sense because it's sort of like life. You know, you go to these different stores and you have different aspects of life. You build your home, your lives all around going to each of these stores where they fulfill a certain aspect of life, where it's like, have the best furniture, have the best clothing, have the best toys, go to the toy store with your kids. And yeah, that's really cool. Really great themes there. I love the Star 4 characters all surviving in this mall. Yeah. It's goofy, of course. It's a goofy movie. It is dated a bit, but there's a lot of charm and nostalgia for me. So yeah, I really like the original Dawn of the Dead. Also, yeah, the poster for the original Dawn of the Dead. That's not the poster exactly. It's a little differently colored. I love the poster for the original Dawn of the Dead. One of my favorite movie posters. Day of the Dead. I want to love Day of the Dead, but I can't. It has the most interesting part of the entire movie is that Bubba is a zombie that's trying to be trained by scientists to become more human. and to become like a pet, basically. Like, he's no longer a threat. He's not dangerous to people. And that's cool. That's the coolest part of the whole movie. It's an underground bunker movie. I think visually it's not as engaging as a mall or trapped in a farmhouse like in Night of the Living Dead. The characters are not as interesting either. Some of the characters act kind of cartoony and they're just not believable. And for the grittiness that the movie is sort of going for, I think that takes away from that tone. The zombie effects are amazing though. Like the first two zombie Living Dead movies, the makeup, for the most part, kind of silly. This one, though, the makeup's really good. And it's, I can't remember his name, but he did the makeup effects for The Walking Dead. Oh, Tom Savini. Well, then his assistant was the one who worked on The Walking Dead makeup, did all the zombie makeup. So a lot of that originality comes from here. But yeah, I wish I could love Day of the Dead more. I've seen it a couple times. It always kind of like, I kind of get out of it a bit. All right, we're going to speedrun some of these. I haven't seen them in a long time, or I've only seen them once. Dead Silence. I remember it kind of scared me, freaked me out a bit. I barely remember this movie, though. Doesn't really stand out. You know, 2.5 stars. Greg Nicotero. Thank you, Scott and Hell. Greg Nicotero. Yeah, he was an assistant to Tom Savini in Day of the Dead. And he learned from the best because Tom Savini was the OG horror makeup guy back then. So yeah, Dead Silence, barely anything to say. The Descent. This is another one that I want to love more. I love the idea, and some of the sequences in this movie are fantastic. There's also some pretty solid character work with the main two characters, especially. The intro to this movie is my favorite part, actually. I think the intro to this movie is crazy. You have no idea what happens in the beginning. When it does, you're like, whoa, this is where this movie's going. Okay, cool. I think that the slow burn of getting underground and then the horrors happening, I think that it's a little, I'm just not as engaged as I wish I could be. It is pretty freaky at times, very violent too. And it really, I think the main takeaway from this movie is that intro, and then just how they shot all of these really cramped underground sequences are really freaky and cool. The Devil's Rejects. I need to see this one again. I've only seen it once, and I could see it going down because I've kind of lost, I don't know, Rob Zombie, I've kind of gone down a bit, because I think the type of horror he does is not the type of horror that I really love a whole lot. But I think The Devil's Rejects is the closest in terms of something that I can attach to a bit, because the idea for this movie is pretty crazy. You have 3 psychos, 3 murderers that are family. Their entire home and family are all killed, so now they're basically just on the run. And yeah, they do horrible things throughout the movie, and they're bad people, but you can't help but sorta end up liking them and rooting for them somehow. I want to watch it again, though, to see if that's true. When I was younger, that was true, but now, I don't know, maybe I might be more critical. Also, when I watch scenes of the characters interacting, it is just kind of nonstop cussing and really annoying, and I don't really like that now, so I don't know. Famous sequences, though, I am the devil and I'm here to do the devil's work. That's a really cool line and just an interesting sequence. The ending's really cool as well. Kind of the best way you could have done the ending. Yeah, I want to see it again. Could go lower. Not sure. Dr. Sleep. Listen, you can't do a sequel to The Shining. You just can't. And unfortunately, this movie was pretty solid. For the first 3 quarters, it was its own movie. And then they had to retread The Shining, and it's just a retread, and it doesn't work. And I have a feeling Mike Flanagan, who I really like, he's one of my favorite horror filmmakers right now, I have a feeling he probably didn't want all that ending stuff, but then studio involvement said, well, dude, it's the sequel to The Shining. You have to have The Shining. You have to have them go to the hotel. You have to have his son look through the crack in the door. You have to have all those things. And it's like, okay, it's member berries. That's it. There's no substance to that. He tried to give substance. But before that, pretty solid continuation for what you can do. Haunted Danny as an adult. His powers are explored, because that was an aspect of the original that is sort of like, well, that was weird. Wait, well, yeah. Yeah, it did its best. I liked some of it, disliked the ending. Don't Breathe! This one's cool. This one was a good one. I like Fede Alvarez because he did the remake to Evil Dead, which we'll get to soon. This one is at its best with those long camera sequences of them sneaking around the blind man. And the concept for this movie is a classic, too. I mean, 3 burglars trapped in a home with a old blind vet who actually is like a really efficient killer. Like, they picked on the wrong house to burglarize. Movie gets really cool and wacky in the second half. Some scenes are just like, wait, whoa, I did not expect this movie to go there. That's fun. I think my main issue with the movie is that the characterization kind of just drops in the second half. You have some pretty solid character work in the first half, and then the second half, it is just, well, survive. That's all that matters now. And I think there was potential for more cathartic character growth, character conclusions as well, but they don't quite match what I was hoping for. But 3.5 stars. Fun. Alright, I can't rank this movie because I don't really remember it. I saw it once. Wait, okay, again, I have the wrong Dracula ranked. I have not seen this one. I saw the OG Dracula, 1931, I believe. 1932? Yeah. I saw when I was a kid. I did not like it. I was very bored throughout the whole thing, but that's because I was a little kid and I did not know what to expect out of a 1931 horror movie. But I want to rewatch the original Dracula. Not sure why the 1958 version is here. I have not seen it. Drag Me to Hell. I barely remember this movie. I saw it once when I was young. I remember it being scary, and I remember as a kid not understanding that it was partially a comedy. But as an adult now, it's like, oh, I guess that was partially a comedy? Huh. But yeah, the old lady always freaked me out in this one. The ending's crazy. I barely remember this movie, though. Moving on. Evil Dead remake. Oh, boy. We're adding it to the list. Evil Dead. All right. I'm going to be a hot take person. Got her moved on to the Dead. The original. Boom. Back to our top 5. Okay. Evil Dead remake. I don't care. I love this movie. Yes, it does break a lot of the rules that I am talking about when it comes to horror. The cake is not the greatest. I still think the cake is actually solid for what it's going for. I think the cake is solid. What really works with this movie is that the icing is so rich. Oh my God. For the practical effects, especially when you get into the 2010s and everything became CGI. But then you have a movie like this that to me has some of the best practical horror effects ever. And I saw it at just the right time. I was 16 years old. Saw it in theaters. God, this movie was a blast. It is scary. It's crazy. It's wild. It has some twists that make it different from the original, which I had already seen before the remake. Yeah, I just have a blast with this movie. Very little downtime. When we're getting into the character part, the cake of the movie, I still find it engaging. Probably some of that is bias and nostalgia. But this is such a wild ride movie. Just crazy. The ending of the movie, it's raining blood. And it's all real. Just insane. I love it. I love it. The original Evil Dead. Alright, yeah, I know. Horror buffs hate me at this moment. I need to see this again. First of all, I've only seen it once, and I was like 14 when I saw it. And this movie, to me, there's a caveat when you watch it. You have to accept this is such a micro-budget horror movie that the fact that it even exists and is good is a miracle. However, if you don't have that caveat and you're looking for something genuinely scary, I feel like you're going to be left with not a lot. Because it is so micro-budget, and it is campy at times, that I just, I don't remember being that engaged in it. I want to see it again because it's been so long, and my respect for this movie is higher than my actual enjoyment of the movie. But it's an all-time classic as well. It's widely respected, which, like I said earlier in the stream, I am in the mood to watch movies that I haven't seen in forever, that I didn't care for originally, but are known to be great movies. Evil Dead 2, same story. I think I will actually definitely like Evil Dead 2 more than 1. It's basically a soft remake of the original, but done in a embracing the comedy campy style. And tiny bigger budget, which helps. Evil Dead 2, though, has some more scenes that I think about and remember. Everything to do with the hand is really cool. And yeah, I want to see that one again. Evil Dead Rise. Oh my god. We had a little glitch there. Alright. Now I know what you're thinking. You loved the original Evil Dead remake. What's up with Evil Dead Rise? I know! I wanted to love this movie. I think my issue with this movie is it came out 10 years later, and I was expecting more. Unfortunately, I think the cake of this one I don't find as interesting as the original. I think it's serviceable. And the icing for me wasn't different enough. It just felt more of the same of really well done practical effects and violence. And, you know, okay, yes, you did great. You did great just like the original. But the problem is you are not the original, so I need you to do something different. You know, that's sort of my main issue with this movie. I just wanted more out of it. And I was left a little bit disappointed. But, you know, it's still a solid horror movie. It twisted up a little bit because the whole deal with Evil Dead is that your friends, your family, they become possessed and now they're demonic and you're scared because you're not sure if they're still the real them somewhere in there. That's why you don't necessarily want to just kill them because you feel like you're killing your loved one. This one, the mom is transformed and her kids are there, which is different. They're kids, and then also takes place in like a city apartment, which is different. Every Evil Dead movie before that took place in a cabin in the woods, except for Medieval Dead, which was barely an Evil Dead movie. The Exorcist. We're adding The Exorcist. Yep, we're adding it. All right, this is an example of a horror movie that I did not care for when I first saw it. When I first saw it, I was bored out of my gourd. I was like, dude, I don't. This is a boring movie. Oh shoot. Oh well, we'll get another one in there at some point. My bad. Exorcist is there though. Yeah, Exorcist is the all-time classic, the original scariest movie ever made. Anytime you have a new horror movie come out that people are trying to market as the scariest movie ever made, this is the one that they're always referencing. Back in the day, this movie made people faint, made people throw up, people left the theater. And what's extra cool about this movie is that it was actually haunted. Like, there are behind-the-scenes fun facts that are crazy. Like, it's like kind of messed up. The director put his actors through crazy things. The behind the scenes of this movie is an entire haunting horror movie of its own. For me and a lot of people, when you go to see this movie, yes, it is a bit older, so get ready for a slower pacing. Okay, sure, the effects are a little dated. I don't mind though. I do not mind it. I think it was done so well that I don't really notice. I'm just engaged in the cake. The cake is so rich. Yes, we don't really get to the exorcising till pretty late in the movie, and it's a bit longer compared to most horror movies. It's over 2 hours, I know that, which is already pretty rare for horror movies. But as an adult now, I totally respect it, and I love the build-up, because this movie is more than just, oh, poor little girl, you know, spirituality, all of that. The movie really is science versus religion. It's also really about a poor mother that's just so desperate to save her child and feels like there are no answers. And you have these desperate men just trying their best to save this poor little girl. And the performance of Reagan, oh, incredible. Yeah, even the beginning, because I remember when I was young, and a lot of people, they don't like the beginning, because the beginning's like, why are we in like, I forget if it's Iraq or Africa, I forget where, or no, it's like Egypt, something like that. I don't know. It's somewhere in the Middle East. We're hanging out there for like 15 minutes or so, 20 minutes. That's the very beginning of the movie. And we're hanging out with the main old guy here, who then doesn't show up for over half of the movie. But that beginning, I remember being bored out of my gourd when I first watched it. But now, something about that atmosphere. This movie's great with atmosphere. Something about it. Now, when I watch it, I'm just uneasy the whole time. I'm just like, oof. So yeah, 4 stars. I'm really liking that one more and more when I watch it. Final Destination. Let's speedrun the Final Destination movies. I only ever saw all these once. Wow, I didn't even bother ranking the others. I mean, they're all going to be like 2-ish stars or whatever. The original is the only one that I cared about. It's the original, so it's an original idea, and that's fun. It is really cool to have, you know, oh my god, like, you want to prevent your own death, but it somehow will always happen no matter what, and it's always by accident. So it's always twisty-turny. You never really know what to expect. Lots of surprises. It's a little goofy, a little dated, you know, 2000, so it feels like a 2000 movie. But yeah, that's all I really remember about it. The second one, I think this one has the log scene. Everyone always talks about when they're driving on the highway and then there's a big truck and it has logs on the back of it or something like that. Long, sharpish objects that don't drive behind them, because if you do, you know, in the movie, it falls off and crashes into the car and kills you. That's really what the Final Destination movies, their legacy is, that it has made people become afraid of certain things. Like in the third one, it's roller coasters. I'm sure people were already scared of dying on a roller coaster, but this movie made it famous. Oh, airplanes. The first movie made airplanes extra scary to people, which crazy that was 2000. They barely got that in. I'm pretty sure they wouldn't have been able to make this movie if they waited a year. Yeah, I don't really remember anything else about those other, and I haven't seen any of the other Final Destination movies because, like I said, I was full. I'm good. The Fly. All right, let's add The Fly. Let's get it there. The Fly. So, this one's a sneaky horror movie. It's a slow burn, but it's body horror. Body horror gets to me. That freaks me out. Body horror grosses me out the most. The premise is so simple. So simple. You have a man... I love Jeff Goldblum's performance in this. I think it's his original performance that sort of solidified his character and his tone, just who he is. People know Jeff Goldblum because of his performance in this movie. He's a really weird, antisocial, goofy scientist, quirky guy. And he is building a teleportation pod. He wants to invent teleportation. However, when he goes to test the teleportation pod in a drunken stupor of anger, a fly gets in, and he doesn't realize it. And then he's teleported, and that's it. But slowly, things start changing about him, and he doesn't know why. And the movie gets gross, gets so disgusting. One of the grossest movies I've ever seen. The cake is very good in this one. It's a very small movie. There's really only like 3 characters in the whole movie, and most of the movie takes place in this guy's industrial apartment / lab. Yeah, it's the slow builds of just what's going to happen next with this guy, what is going to change about him now, where are we headed, and it's just solid. I always have a great time watching this movie. It's great. And the ending's crazy. The ending's so metal. And The Exorcist. The ending to The Exorcist is metal as F. Frankenstein, one of the originals. Yeah, I got a lot of respect for this movie. I love the themes that it explores. Frankenstein's really cool. Pacing is actually pretty good. It's a short movie too. This boy's like not even 80 minutes, I think. It's a short boy. Only thing that kind of holds it back is it's so ancient. And you know, yeah, I'm just I think just it's very dated, and the concepts and ideas for the movie are fantastic. It's just that for modern audience, I just, you know, I'm a little disconnected from it. Sometimes I'm able to push past that. I think once you get to like the 60s and beyond, I'm able to kind of look a little bit past the age. But sometimes the age does kind of bring it down for me. Sometimes it doesn't though. Sometimes an old movie I'm able to still love despite the fact that it's old. Double Indemnity, I give that movie 4.5 stars. I love Double Indemnity. That's 1944. But it's a noir movie. And really when you think of noir, it's the 40s. Like that's the era of that. Yeah, I don't know. Frankenstein, solid though. Oh god, okay, this is sort of out of order, because it's in alphabetical order. We'll get to the proper Nightmare on Elm Street movies, but for now, yeah, Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare. If you know about this movie, you know it's garbage, and it is. It's bad. We're gonna add it to the list of bottom 5. It is not good at all. So we'll get to more of Nightmare on Elm Street later on down the road, but back in the day, Nightmare on Elm Street was my favorite slasher. I mean, it probably is still my favorite slasher series. Ooh, that's a little hard to... wait. Dang. Little hard to see the stars there. Close enough. You could just see that they're bad. Anyway, yeah. Nightmare on Elm Street, obviously the franchise slowly just lost its path and became sloppy comedies. By Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare, it was so exhausted. It's just like, oh my god, just kill them off already. We're done. We're done with this franchise. Who cares? This one, above all, though, it's like, I don't know. There's just nothing to latch on to. The cake is bad. You don't care about any of the characters. Freddy's not scary anymore. He's just a goofball. The kills don't even make sense and are just ridiculous and not even like cool or satisfying at all. It's just cringe, honestly. Not a good movie at all. Just dumb. Freddy versus Jason. Oh boy. All right. When I was younger, this movie was so hype. If I were to rewatch it now, I don't know if I would give it 3 stars. The cake of this movie's not good, really, at all, from my memory. I appreciate that finally, tone-wise, we're getting a little bit more back to the horror. It's still a comedy, still, but the hype and uniqueness of 2 horror icons facing off is so cool. And the icing is delicious. When you finally get to their confrontation, it takes a while, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with a movie called Freddy vs. Jason only having little spouts of Freddy vs. Jason until you get to that final fight. As long as the final fight's satisfying, the final fight's so awesome. It's so hype. Part of it's biased and nostalgia because I love Freddy and Jason is cool, but oh man, their final fight's so cool. It's so hyper violent and awesome. I love it. Alright, I know that people seem to like the remake to Friday the 13th a fair amount, especially when it's compared to the other Friday the 13th movies. I am not a big Friday the 13th guy, and I just didn't like the remake. I watched it twice. Each time I was like, nope. I think the cake is bad. That's really it. I just do not like the characters at all. I just find it extremely dull. And Jason's cool, but you know, the whole formula is slowly these characters are going to die one by one. And like, okay, cool, the effects are good. They're you know, newer, 2009. The lighting and color of the movie is cooler as well because it's more darker, horror-y. But I just don't care about any of the characters. They just annoyed me. So when they're all dying off, I'm just like, cool, finally. So we're going to add it there. It is going to be above Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare, though. It is definitely better than that garbage movie. I'm gonna put it right there. Look at that. Now we actually have a bottom 5. We got top 5 and bottom 5. Wait, where's... Oh! Oops. The fly was hidden. And boom, there we go. Oh, look at that. Nice and pretty. It's like I set it up in a certain way. Ha! Alright. Alright. Now I really mean it. Speed run! Friday the 13th. The original... Okay, yeah, it's classic, but unfortunately it's a retread of Halloween. Also, pretty boring and not engaging, actually, whenever you rewatch it. It's fun, the mystery, because you don't actually see who the killer is until the end of the movie. That's cool. That's maybe the only cool part of the whole movie. The kills are really cheesy and look fake. It's a cool premise, but yeah, I just don't have a ton of respect for it just because it is a retread of Halloween, basically, and it's admittedly that. Okay, that's weird and out of order. Whatever. Okay, part 2. Just not as good as the original. It's basically a retread as well. Yeah, Jason's finally in it, but you know, I don't really care. Part 3. Let's just bump it down even lower. Who cares? Who cares? In fact, let's just add it to... Actually, we won't add it to the list yet because there's worse ones that'll be added to the bottom 5. But part 3, the 3D is so goofy. Yes, Jason gets his mask finally, cool, but again, I don't care. It's the same movie again for the 3rd time in a row, and it's extra cheesy because of the 3D. Final chapter. So, I've been hearing a lot of good stuff about this one. I need to rewatch it. I've only seen the first Friday the 13th, like 3 times, I think. All the others I only ever saw once when I was a kid, when I binged them all. This one has a little bit more going on, a little bit better cake. Characters are kind of cool. Corey Feldman plays a kid who's actually a pretty good character. This one felt a little bit more about the characters and less about Jason specifically. And it has a satisfying conclusion. The end of the original Friday the 13th era. So kind of sounds like it's the best Friday the 13th movie. That's sort of what I hear. Part 5. A lot of people don't like this one. I actually kind of liked it when I first saw it, but probably in hindsight, I'm not going to like it as much. I'll put it down to 2 stars for now. It's sort of like the franchise just didn't know what to do, you know? So they're just like, well, Jason's dead. Let's do a new beginning. And people didn't like it, which is why you get to part 6. Jason lives. He's back. And now he's actually the zombie version. This is the other Friday the 13th movie that I hear is actually good. It's this one and part 4 considered the best Friday the 13th movies. Yeah, I think, you know, when I watch like clips of this movie now and stuff, I could see me maybe liking this one, you know, but it's been years, only ever saw it once. Part 7, from what I remember, yeah. All these movies are the same basically, so you're just looking for things that make each of them stand out from the other. Part 6 stood out because it was zombie Jason. Jason's a little different. The franchise finally embraced that it is a dark comedy and that no one's scared of Jason anymore. I think part 7 got neutered in the censorship. I think that's the main takeaway from this one, is that it's not as violent because of censorship, which sucks. Because it's a slasher movie. How are you going to do a slasher, you know, and not have slashing? All right, Jason Takes Manhattan, going to the bottom 5. Let's do it. Let's do it. I did not like this movie at all. When I first watched it, I hated this movie. I hated it. Congrats, Antichrist. You never belonged down there. You were always better than what was actually the bottom 5. Yeah, so this movie pissed me off. One, I just thought it was lame. I really didn't care about any of the characters. And the movie's a lie. It lies to you. It's called Jason Takes Manhattan. Guess what? We're on a boat the whole movie. We're not in Manhattan at all until the end of the movie. And then when you're in Manhattan, you get like a couple shots of Times Square and that's it. And then you're hanging out in dark alleys. So a desperate franchise that's deep into part 8. It's literally just a money machine at this point. It's such a gimmick and it's not paid off in any way. Also, Jason's mask was yellow in this one and there's no explanation for it, and he just looked ugly, and I just didn't like anything about this movie, and I don't know if I will ever watch it again. So there we go. Half a star. Moving on. Oh yeah, by the way, that's it for Friday the 13th. I never saw 9 or 10. I know Jason X has a lot of fans for the irony sake. Maybe I'll watch it at some point, but I don't expect much. Clearly, I was done after part 8. I do not like part 8 whatsoever. From Dusk Till Dawn. This is one of the all-time greatest twists to a genre movie. When you change the genre. Parasite's the greatest, by the way. If you're asking me for genre-shifting movies, Parasite's the greatest. Dusk Till Dawn is up there, though. This movie's not a horror movie for the first 2/3 of it. It's an action comedy, or a crime action comedy thriller, a little bit of comedy. Mostly just crime action. And then you get to this crazy, batshit insane horror movie at the end. And it's fun. It's good. My opinion of it has lessened over the years, mainly because I think that the comedic tone was leaned a little too heavily at times, maybe. And I'm just not quite as hooked to the characters as I wish I could have been. Yeah, George Clooney's fun. He's good in this movie. I also really like Harvey Keitel. He's good as well. The vampires behaving more like zombies. Again, from 30 Days of Night to this one. Kind of cool. The effects are really wacky as well. Really fun. Yeah, I want to like this one more. Sometimes I want to give it 3.5 stars. But then every time I watch it, I am kind of left a little bit like, I don't know. I don't know if I can give it 3.5 stars. Also, let me answer some questions real quick. I haven't answered questions in a bit. What would be best to watch of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies to watch as a first-timer? I mean, of course, watch the first one. We will get to Nightmare on Elm Street down the line, but for now, I will say, always watch the first one. It's the best one. Then, skip the second one, watch the third one. The third one is a direct sequel to the first one. The second one is not. Follows different characters, barely connected in any way. Part 3 is direct sequel to the first one, and it does a very good job at continuing the lore because, you know, Freddy, of course, goes after you in your dreams. What does that mean? Why does he do this? Part 3 explores that more, and it's pretty solid, and it's known as one of those horror sequels that actually is good. After that, though, honestly, I would skip to New Nightmare. It's the 7th Nightmare on Elm Street movie, and it's a meta one. It was actually Wes Craven's first attempt at doing a meta horror slasher movie before Scream, when he nailed it. Scream is better, and it, of course, is the most famous meta horror movie ever, basically. But New Nightmare was his first go at it, and I think he did a pretty good job. Those are the only 3 Nightmare on Elm Street movies I would recommend. We'll get to the remake. I'm a hot take guy. I actually like the remake, but pretty much no one does. So, you know, watch the 3 that I recommended, and let me know what you think. Freddy vs. Jason is the best crossover film ever. It's pretty fun. It's cheesy and you know, not, you know, there's not much cake to that movie, but it's fun. What's my Mount Rushmore of horror movie characters? So I want to lean towards doing slasher characters first. And what they would be is Freddy, Jason, Michael Myers, and Leatherface. Those are the Mount Rushmore of slashers, just far and wide to me. Nothing else compares at all. Obviously, Pinhead is cool, Chucky's cool, Ghostface is cool, Candyman-ish, but nah, those are the 4, without a doubt. And I don't consider Jigsaw really a slasher killer. I don't consider him part of that. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah, Nick Productions repeated what I said. He prefers the first Nightmare film and then Dream Warriors, which is the 3rd one. The rest of the movies declined over time. Pretty much, yep. And yeah, there we go. All right. Back to reviews. Boom, boom, boom. Frontiers. All right, this was sort of during my binge of trying to watch the most messed up horror movies I could. Yeah, I mean, this one's mostly shock value, and that's kind of it. I don't remember much of the plot. I kind of think the plot wasn't that satisfying. You know, there was some promise there. Like, I was sort of engaged with the characters and sort of the plight that they were under. I thought it was well executed, but then it just kind of meanders and just becomes, run, violence, oh, people die, and that's kind of it. And it's like, all right, okay. Funny Games. I had heard good stuff about this. I did watch the American remake, and I probably shouldn't have. We're going to add it to the bottom 5 because I somehow preferred Cannibal Holocaust. Interesting. Yeah. So, premise of this movie. Couple psycho boys show up in a house and kidnap a family and torture them. That's it. Not much cake to this one. I just was kind of bored, not that engaged at all. Yeah. Gerald's Game, Mike Flanagan, my man. Gerald's Game's cool. When I rewatch it, I don't like it as much as the first time I saw it. The first time I saw it, it was 4 stars, without a doubt. I was like, oh, that was great. But then when I watched it again, I was like, okay. Mike Flanagan's main issue is that he has themes in all of his movies. That's what I love. He always has great cake. But I think he overindulges in the cake at times. And it's like the ratio of icing to cake is a little off, and it's too big of a cake, where it's like, okay, no, I get it. I get what you're going for. You don't have to, like, you know, hang out here in your themes too long. He kind of overindulges a bit in that, I think. But he is great at getting you to care about the characters, stay engaged in the story, unique sequences. Basically, this woman is tied to this bed the whole movie. The icing is really good with this one. Very freaky. Yeah, this one's a good one. Great exploration of trauma and how it creates the horror, because that's the most interesting horror to me, is psychological horror, what messes with your mind. The ending for this movie is a little ham-fisted, I think, and sort of weird. It it doesn't land for me as well as I wanted to after all the mystery that was built up. But the secret reveal of what the movie's actually about and what actually troubles her and why being tied to this bed is something more than just a survival scenario for her is really cool and genuinely messed up. Get Out! One of the most famous modern horror movies. Solid. It's great. So much commentary about race, modern commentary about it. Just fantastic. Chris, haha, great name. He's great. I love him because he is one of the most rootable horror protagonists for me. Because, yeah, he's weirded out the whole time. He's uncomfortable, but he has to put up a front. You know, he just has to put up a front and deal with all this BS. And anytime he brings up his concerns, it's sort of, you know, pushed away. So he's just like, all right. And deep down, he's dealing with a lot. And Daniel Kaluuya, he does a great job of showing that this guy is actually freaked out. He is nervous. He is hiding a lot. He's trying to contain a lot. And it's believable. He's very locked in, mostly stoic performance. But because of that inner turmoil that's so believable, he's great. And this movie's great because it's a twist on the horror genre where it's more of a psychological horror for most of it, and then it becomes full-on violent horror at the end, but the violence has a twist, and it's very good. And this one's also a great script, great screenplay for all the different ways that there are setups and then payoffs at the end. Every little thing in the movie matters, and it's very well done. I want to lean towards 4 stars. Am I going to give it 4 stars? I'm going to give it 4 stars. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it right now. Look at that. I did it. Page 5. We're an hour and a half in. All right. Okay. Ghostland. Another one of those movies that I watched during the disturbing movie binge. This one's a little better. This one's got a little bit more cake going on. This one's a good psychological disturbing movie where a lot of the horror comes from inside their minds. But yeah, it's not quite, you know, it's there. There's cake, but not super tasty. Goodnight Mommy. I want to watch this one again. This one's great for atmosphere. Barely any music in this one. Very unnerving, creepy foreign film. I think it was such a slow burn that I wish a little bit more happened. I kind of felt like the plot was pretty paper thin, and after the initial creepiness, it sort of gets a little dull until the ending, and the ending's really good. Green Room. All right, Green Room's pretty messed up. This one freaked me out when I first saw it. It messed me up, man. The violence in this one is so shocking and crazy. This one's a slow burn. The premise is really cool. The punk band gets trapped in the green room of a sort of low, small-scale, like, rock bar place. Neo-Nazis are trying to get to them, and they are trapped in that green room, just way out of their element. And Patrick Stewart plays the leader of the neo-Nazis. He's just a straight-up villain. It's crazy. Yeah. This one's just solid horror flick. I like it. It's messed up. Gets a little wacky towards the end. A little weird. It's also, unfortunately, one of those horror movies that sort of anti-satisfying. Like, it's cool, though, because it breaks the rules. It does not... Like, you don't know what's going to happen next ever. And that's what's fun about it. Gremlins. This is barely a horror movie. I saw it once as an adult. I wanted to like it more. It's one of those all-time classics. But, I don't know, something about it, I wasn't quite as connecting to it as I wanted to. And maybe also because I knew about the premise and I had heard so much about it and how amazing it was that... Unfortunately, it would disappoint me once I finally saw it. But it's fun. It's cute. It's a Christmas one. Pretty good. Some funny stuff at the end. Once the gremlins are going off. It's pretty fun. Did I see Green Mile? I did. I cried. I hella cried watching Green Mile. My God. Titus Profess. What horror film should I watch right now? I mean, dude, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, obviously, I got my top 5 over here that's going to evolve as we get through more movies. So that can help you decide what horror movies you want to watch. But depends on what kind of horror movie you want to watch right now. Gretel and Hansel. Saw this one recently. Atmosphere, tone, visuals. Beautiful. Just so creepy and unnerving. It's part of that new age horror, the A24 horror that's more about the atmosphere. Yes, there is plot. It's a little thin at times, but oh boy, it's because my complaint about movies like The Conjuring earlier on, I was complaining that the structures are all the same. You have the scary scenes and then you have the plot character scenes. Very rarely do those scenes mix together. Ideally, you want character story growth, but it's also scary at the same time. Yes, you want an ebb and flow to the scares. You don't want it to just all be rah, because then you'd get exhausted and it wouldn't be scary anymore by the end. But you also don't want it to just be down here the whole time, because then, okay, like, atmosphere to me is more important, but atmosphere alone to me isn't quite enough sometimes. And a lot of modern horror movies have been getting better, A24 especially, are really getting good at atmosphere and not allowing you to ever feel safe. Gretel and Hansel is one of those. It's good. It's a good spin on a classic tale that we have all heard of. The Grudge. This was one of the OG horror movies I saw that freaked me out. The noise that The Grudge makes freaks me out. Oh my god. I'm sure if I were to watch this movie again, I'd rank it lower. But I got a lot of nostalgia for it. She freaks me out. Visuals, oh, just scary. I have not seen the original Ju-on The Grudge. I have not. I did see Ringu, and we'll get to it, but I haven't seen Ju-on The Grudge for a reason. But maybe I should see it. Maybe I should. Where's The Grudge 2? I've seen The Grudge 2. What the hell? I didn't have it ranked. Well, sheesh. Let's get it on there. As you can see, 2 stars. I don't like it a ton. 225 horror movies. Boom. We bumped it up. Yeah, so The Grudge 2, you know, it's there's some cool twists early on that kind of mess with you a bit. And there's one sequence in the principal's office that freaks me out to this day. It's such a surprise. But my issue with The Grudge 2 is that it is kind of retreading some of the original. There's not enough to go on that really makes this one worthwhile for it being a sequel. It's not different enough, so it's more of, well, you're kind of seeing some of the same stuff from the first one a bit, other than those sequences that I brought up that are really effective. But yeah, you're not as attached to the characters. Also, The Grudge, the rules don't make sense. That's the main issue with The Grudge. And part two, the second one is really where those rules just start getting bent out of shape and don't make sense. Halloween remake. The first one. I got nostalgia for this one. I really liked it when I first saw it. I'm sure if I were to watch it now, I wouldn't like it as much. I think the spin of showing how Michael Myers was messed up from the beginning is cool. It does take away from the genuine scariness that the original has, in terms of the original was that, you know, we didn't know who he was or why he did this. He is just evil incarnate. But Rob Zombie, I think I've gone down a bit on him. Not like that, but my opinion of him and his movies. Yeah. Nah, I'll just bump it down now. 3 stars. But I think it's fun. I think it's a little different, unique. That's the main thing. I think it's unique. I don't know why the original's all the way over here. Whatever, we'll go in order. Okay, I know people really liked this, the 2018 remake. And, like, sure, Jamie Lee Curtis is back, and that's the coolest part of the movie, is just her relationship with Michael Myers and how it's been for 40 years. I think that, what do I remember about this movie? I mean, it's when you have the original remake, or when you have the Rob Zombie remake, the tongue-in-cheek references to the original make sense because it is a remake. But when you have this, which is a soft reboot, to me, the retread doesn't work as well. And also, there was already a remake, so we're really retreading by this point. I think some of the twists of the retread are kind of fun. Like there's a shot where the main character's in the classroom, and in the original, when she looks out the window, Michael Myers is there and then suddenly disappears. In this one, it's her mom, Jamie Lee Curtis, or grandma, standing out there, and then she disappears or something like that. That's fun. The final confrontation between Jamie Lee Curtis and Michael Myers, I wasn't quite as satisfied as I wanted to be. I think it could have been better. Also, I think the main issue with this movie is that it had sequels. I think it would have been a more satisfying, conclusive film to answer, because the whole point of the movie and why it is interesting is that Laurie Strode has so much PTSD and never moved on from the horrors that she faced 40 years ago. So the whole movie is what's going to happen when she runs into Michael Myers again. But then when you have it be, well, wait, there's another one now, and another one, it's like, okay, so basically, we don't get an answer. Like, okay, they fought, cool, but then there's no conclusive to the story, I think it would have done better. It's just one movie. And that's also why I never saw Halloween Kills or Halloween Ends. The original Halloween. All right, I know I'm an asshole, and I want to watch it again. I've seen it several times, and each time I want to love it because my respect for this movie is sky high. This is one of the all-time greats, of course. Sometimes the all-time greats, I like them. The Exorcist. I originally didn't like it, but then I started loving it. I think with Halloween, because it's so low budget and the plot at times is kind of paper thin, you don't really care about any of the characters other than Laurie Strode. But Michael Myers, of course, this is his introduction. So classic. There are scary sequences. They don't scare me as much anymore. They never really scared me, actually. I kind of saw it at a time where I had seen enough other horror movies that this one just didn't really scare me. I think this one is a lot of an earlier on horror movie for a lot of people that watch it. And I also just think it's a little dated. It just isn't quite as effective as I wish it could be. But it is a classic, so gotta give it credit. VIB is Tag. Hey Chris, is there a horror film in your opinion that is so bad that it's good? I don't know. I don't know if I can say it's so bad it's good. More so that an objectively bad horror movie that I don't mind. I actually like it. That would be the Nightmare on Elm Street remake. I don't really care that it's bad. But also, it's been years since I've seen it, so maybe if I were to watch it again, I'd be like, nah, this is garbage. But we'll see. Halloween 2 remake. We're bouncing all over the place. This is weirdly ordered. This one's very overindulgent in the violence. I don't even know why the hell I had it 3 stars. Definitely not 3 stars. At least 2, or at most 2. This one's just mean-spirited, I think. Some sequences are cool. Laurie Strode has hella PTSD, and that's fun. It's an unforgiving horror movie, so messed up. I don't mind that the first remake explored Michael Myers' backstory, and in this one, we really try to explore it again, and humanize him a bit, which is different. At least it's a spin. His mask gets more and more messed up throughout the movie, which is cool. The final confrontation at the end is interesting. There's a lot of alternate endings, and I forget which ending's my favorite. But as far as I can remember, just kind of mean-spirited and not enough to really latch onto. All right, Halloween 2 original. I saw this, I think, on an airplane years ago. It's just the first one again, but only Laurie Strode. She running around a hospital. Michael Myers chasing after her, and that's it. He kills people. It's your run-of-the-mill slasher. Not interesting enough. Not enough cool themes that rival the first one. Haunting a Blind Man or Haunting a Hill House. So I try to have a rule when it comes to letterboxd that I don't really rank miniseries because I only want it to be. No, unrank. Okay, wait, maybe. Unrank. How do I unrank? God damn it. Alright, I don't know how to unrank. I try not to rank miniseries because I want it to just be movies in my listings. So, but Haunting Hill House, Blind Manor, they're really good. They're Mike Flanagan. I recommend it. Hellraiser. Alright, out of all the slasher movies, this one was the last one I saw a couple years ago. It's cool. It's going for different themes, a lot of sadomasochism, sexual themes, very interesting. I wasn't hooked. I wasn't as interested, unfortunately. I think I didn't care about the characters a ton, and it felt a little goofy at times, maybe. I think I also was just really waiting for stuff to, like, kind of get to the point, I think, from what I remember. Yeah! Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer. Is this being added? Is this being added? Maybe not. It's borderline bottom 5 for sure. Michael Rooker, young Michael Rooker, that's cool. He plays the psycho killer, that's cool. It's pretty good. Don't remember much of this movie. Didn't care really what was happening. Very paper thin plot. It's like, okay, he's Portrait of a Serial Killer, got it. But then he doesn't really kill a lot of people anyway. I don't know. I was not that interested watching this movie, which is unfortunate because it seems like a lot of people really like this movie. So, sorry. Did not get me. Oh boy! We did it! Ladies and gentlemen, we did it. We found our first 5-star horror movie. We did it. We did it, guys. Boom. 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 At the top, right there. Spoiler alert, it ain't going anywhere else. It's staying at number 1. My favorite horror movie of all time. I posted a video a while ago, back when I was doing How Scary, the retired channel side project. Hereditary was the first one I reviewed. I've talked about Hereditary a lot throughout my YouTube career. This is my favorite horror movie. Does everything that I want to do with horror. It is both psychological and fantasy. There's a twist to the psychologicalness. And when you look at this movie from a psychological standpoint of a family dealing with unimaginable grief and what changes them with that grief, that's what makes it scary. It's not about the jump scares. It's not about the killers. It's about the unimaginable pain that people go through and the unfortunate, tragic incidences that happen in real life. The depiction of grief in this film is unmatched for me. Toni Collette, I mean, this is the most famous example of, like, man, the Oscars just don't care about horror. Like, yes, they gave Get Out its due diligence, but dude, Hereditary, come on, Toni Collette, like, Jesus, just incredible. Her crying scenes especially are so crazy. And then Alex Wolff, also amazing job. He has such a difficult role to play in this movie. This movie, about 30 minutes in, my jaw dropped. I had never felt that way about a movie before. I was shocked, horrified. At times when you're watching this movie, you forget it's a horror movie because you're so depressed. You're not even, like, scared. You're just like, this is just like a depressing nightmare, dude. And that's more along the lines of the horror that I want to make. I want to make horror that just dives into the real horror of human existence, not the fantasy slasher stuff, not the real world, but, you know, sort of uncommon horror of, like, a killer or crime horror, stuff like that. But, like, the thoughts that we're afraid of, the feelings that we're afraid of, the memories that we're afraid of. Hereditary is amazing. Cannot recommend it enough. Favorite horror movie ever. And also, it saves a lot of its scares for the end. I think it's at its scariest at the end, which is very hard to do for horror. Usually, you get used to the horror. You get used to the scares. You become familiar with the killer so that by the time you get to the end, it's not really that scary anymore. No, it stays. It's great. The bird scene really grossed you out, Nick Productions? I mean, there's a lot in that movie that's yeah. Oh, and am I looking forward to Halloween anthology series? Not really. I'm kind of checked out on the Halloween franchise. Unless I hear that it's good and different. Maybe then I'll see it. Almost 2 hours in and we're only at the letter H. Yeah, I'm probably going to have to... I keep saying speed run, but I'm doing a bad job of it. Fine. Actual speed run. I'll stop on movies that I care about. Hide and Seek. I saw this many years ago. It has a twist ending. I remembered liking it, but I'm sure in hindsight it's probably not that good. One of Dakota Fanning's first roles. She does great. Robert De Niro as well, which is wacky. But yeah, Hide and Seek. Kind of a run-of-your-mill horror movie, but pretty good. Hills Have Eyes. So this is an all-time classic. I didn't really enjoy it a ton. I kind of, by this point, this kind of stuff doesn't shock me anymore. It just kind of feels dated and old. Plot is pretty thin and takes a while to really get to the point. And when it gets to the point, I wasn't as satisfied. His House. No, I'll bump this one up to 3 stars. I don't know why it was at 2.5. His House was all right. All right, maybe 2.5. Yeah, His House. All right, I like the premise. It's a unique premise because the question whenever there's a haunted house is, why don't you leave the house? In this movie, it's Syrian or Sudan refugees that have no home. They have to stay in this place no matter what. And that's cool. Some fun psychological horror, but I don't remember a ton. Hostel. Yeah, dude. A lot of people like this one who like the bloody torture porn movies. This is torture porn amalgamate. Not much to hold on to, dude. A lot of these characters are really annoying too. Just like, they're all just annoying dude bros. Not much to hold on to. Will Strad, what's up, Will? Where does The Noise Next Door rank on this list? It's a short film. I don't rank short films. Haha, there we go. House of 1,000 Corpses. Oh, jeez. I only ever saw this one once when I was a kid and I hated it. I hated it with all my heart. I don't know if it would be 1 star now if I were to rewatch it. It certainly will never be above 2 stars, without a doubt. It's not much to latch on to. It's just 2 teenage couples. They end up at a crazy place and that's it. Crazy stuff happens. People die. Boom. Wacky, scary, right? Not much. The House That Jack Built. I want to see this one again. It's a long movie. It's like 2.5 hours long. For horror, that's very long. This is messed up. This is a good messed up horror movie. House That Jack Built. Jack is a vicious murderer, a serial killer, and he narrates the details of his, as you can see, the plot right there. And he builds a life's work out of these kills. This is the most unflinching look into the mind of a serial killer. Dahmer, that TV show that came out a year or 2 ago. Before that, House That Jack Built. For like an actual behind the scenes of what is a serial killer like? How do they live their lives? How do they do these things? House That Jack Built is so disturbing, so crazy. I'd recommend it. Lars von Trier, I did not care for Antichrist. I liked House That Jack Built. It got me. We're adding this piece of shit. We're adding this piece of shit right now. We're not even talking about it. I mean, we'll talk about it, but I hate this film. Okay, so. It's not number 1. I'd put August Underground's Mordum above it because at least Human Centipede 2 is sort of a movie. Yeah, so Human Centipede 1, mostly shock value, that's about it. Paper thin themes, it sort of tried. Human Centipede 2 doesn't even try with that. It is just shock value, torture porn, that's it. I was bored watching this movie. And then the gross things, the scary, messed up things that happen, when they happen, it's just like, I don't care, dude. It just disgusting. Nothing to latch onto. It's just shock value, and that's it. And it's ridiculous shock value. It doesn't even make sense. Disliked it strongly. Human Centipede 1, clearly. I did not like this one either. What did I put in the... Nah, I don't know if it's bottom 5. It's close, though. Obviously, 1 star. Yeah. That's basically all these movies are. It's just shock value. There's like no cake to latch onto at all. This one at least is an original idea and somewhat makes sense, but that's about it. Hush, Mike Flanagan, solid. The unique as well. Deaf woman is stalked by a psychotic killer in a secluded home. Very good as far as I remember. Not a lot of music stuff because of that. It's one of those quiet horror movies. Solid. Good little home invasion flick. I Know What You Did Last Summer. This one was a classic for me as a kid. I saw it several times. It's been a long time. It's cool. Simple premise. You know, they run over this guy. They think he died, but then a year later, all of a sudden, he's back and he's, starting to do bad things and he wants revenge. And it's like, ooh, classic late 90s, early 2000s horror movie in the same vein as Final Destination. Little silly, a little dated, maybe some nostalgia for that time period if you were to watch it. but I haven't seen it in a long time. Maybe it wouldn't be 3 stars if I were to rewatch it. Inside. Ooh, messed up. This one's a gross, messed up movie. A little bit more to hold on to, a little bit more stuff going on there. This one also really messed with me. When the things happened, I actually was like, ooh, because the difference between stuff like this and Human Centipede 2, I don't care about the characters. The violence is just there. There's nothing to latch onto. Here, it's like, oh, I want the characters to escape. I feel tense for the characters. And that's where, you know, the true horror is. But 2.5 stars, obviously. You know, I didn't love it. There wasn't a whole lot to really go with. It is pretty simple, but relatively effective. Insidious. All right, this one's probably my favorite James Wan horror movie, other than Saw, of course, which we will get to. My goodness, there's things happening outside. I haven't seen this one in a while. Saw it a lot as a kid. There was a kid in high school who said, this is just some music. That's it. Without the music, this isn't a horror movie. And I was like, interesting. Yes, it is a little overindulgent with the music. It's a cool premise, though, and this came out at a time where this sort of genre wasn't overdone yet. James Wan, of course, became one of the greats with horror because of this. He was always making very successful horror movies. Everyone saw them. Insidious was one of those first ones. Cool premise. The Darth Maul jump scare is really funny, but also pretty effective as well. Yeah, Insidious is pretty good. Chapter 2. I remember seeing this one, actually liking it. I thought it did a pretty good job of continuing the first one, set itself apart enough. Patrick Wilson has a lot of fun in this one as well. Oh, the old lady, really creepy in this one. She was creepy. Good sequences there. What was this movie? In the Mouth of Madness. I wanted to like this one more. Sam Neill does a good job. He's sort of just messed up because of what's happening to him. No one believes him. That's about it. Don't remember a ton. See, now we're trying to actually speedrun. Invasion of the Body Snatchers. All right, an older horror movie. I liked this one. This one was fun because whole point is that you don't know who to trust, paranoia type horror movie, and an apocalyptic horror movie as well, where it's like, wait, everyone's turning. What? Am I the only one left? It's fun. It's exciting. You're really afraid for the characters. You're engaged with them. The ending's really cool as well. Yeah, I thought this one was a very fun, solid paranoia type horror movie, which is like my favorite genre. Paranoia, which is mixed in with the psychological aspect of you don't know what to trust and you feel like you're losing your mind, basically. Nick Productions' Insidious scared the heck out of me when I was a kid. I couldn't sleep for 2 nights. Yeah. Some of these movies, they definitely were effective when we were younger. The Invisible Man. This is a cool remake. I wouldn't even call it a remake, really. It sets itself apart so differently enough. And the sequences with the Invisible Man, I mean, oh, they were cool. They were really cool. The violence especially, very well done. We will get to the way that those scenes were shot later on because Lee Winnell of Saw and James Wan, he did a film before this one that I like more and I think was more effective. But Invisible Man's good. Solid, good themes as well. Good horror movie. Recommend it. The Invitation. So this is one of those low-budget horror movies that, to me, was missing stuff. Just missing more. I just felt strongly disengaged and waiting for things to happen. And sort of, when you're getting to the cake in the movie, it just kind of, I don't know, it just felt undercooked. Like, the writing, something about it, I was just like, this is missing stuff. This doesn't feel like a full package movie yet. So I did not care for that at all. I'm trying to think of all these 1 stars we keep passing by if I would put them below Freddy Said the Final Nightmare of Friday the 13th. I'll add The Invitation. The Invitation really bored me. I'll get rid of this one. Freddy's Had the Final Nightmare is bullshit, so we'll keep it there. It, the original It, goofy, cheesy. It's a TV movie, so just tone-wise, it doesn't scare me. Maybe if I was a kid, it would have scared me, but yeah. Some classic sequences, they're cool, but it's also very long. And like the remakes, it's mostly just interesting when they're kids. Once they become adults, it's not as interesting. So, yeah, I didn't really care for it. The remake was pretty good. I didn't mind it. I kind of liked it. Kids' performances were great. The writing for the kids were great as well. They actually felt like kids back in that time period. They don't feel like, 40-year-olds writing for kids. They actually feel like kids, and they're cussing and stuff. It's believable. Pennywise, very good, very well done. I think my main issue with this movie is that it is just kind of jump scare central, and it really follows the rules of scary horror scene, plot character scene, scary horror scene, plot character scene. Also, the rules of Pennywise, I don't even know what the rules are. So, I mean, I know that he feeds off of their fears, so that's why he's messing with them throughout the movie, and that's it. But I think also we had to see every kid go through their own personal scares, that it got very repetitive because of that. And then the ending is weird, where it's just like, just yell at him and bully him, and then you win. That didn't make sense. All right. Chapter 2, yeah, it's just a retread of the first one. I do like the performance, especially Bill Hader. He does a really great job, and they have some fun twists with his character as the adult version. Is this Jay Ryan? I forget which actor, or James Ransoni. I forget. He's really good as well. James McAvoy, of course, he's great and everything. But yeah, it's so long, too. It's just like, oh my god, I get it. Get to the point. It Comes at Night. This one's cool. Zombie movie, but very different, very quiet, slow burning, very depressing too. The ending is so dark. Yeah, I wanted to like it more. I wanted to be scared more. It Follows. All right, I'm a hot take with this movie. I love the premise. Love the premise of this movie. Slow stalking, unstoppable force. Once you're infected, it follows you forever until it gets you. Obviously, it's a metaphor for STDs. Some sequences are great. The hallway scene with the tall man, awesome jump scare, perfect. Old lady walking through the halls of the school really freaked me out too. I just wasn't hooked with the characters. The movie has cake, but I didn't like the cake. I did not care for the characters. They annoyed me. And I also just kind of felt the movie dragged on towards the end, and I was just like, okay, I don't really get it anymore. Like, come on. So I'm a little bit of a hot take guy with that one. Jaws. Okay, this is tough because I've never considered Jaws a horror movie, but when I think about it, it does follow all the rules of a creature horror movie, a stalking killer horror movie. So I guess it's horror, so I'm gonna add it, even though I've never really considered it that way. But yeah, Jaws, one of my all-time favorite movies, top 10 movies of all time. Just so much. I have to speed run, but I love Jaws. I don't care that it's dated. I saw it when I was 8 years old at night by myself. I was afraid of the ocean until I was like 25, and sharks still scare me to this day. The three main characters are so awesome. The entire second half of the movie is just them on a boat, and it's so engaging. Every scene is great. I just love this movie to death. And the Indianapolis speech is so crazy, and a death of a certain character is so messed up. When I saw it as a kid, I was like, whoa, freaked me out. King Kong. I can't rank this one because I don't remember it, but I saw it as a kid. One of the OGs, of course, 1933. I'm sure I wouldn't really love it now. Maybe it would be along the same lines as Frankenstein, super old 1930s movie, but started a lot. But I love the original premise. This is also barely a horror movie, though. I don't really know why it's under that. I love the King Kong remake. Krampus. People like this movie. I don't. I didn't care for it. Wasn't engaged. Didn't like the characters. Just felt meandering. Didn't really get it. Let the Right One In. I need to watch this again. I did not like it when I first saw it, but maybe I'd like it more now. This is an interesting one. It's kind of a romance. Foreign as well. Certain sequences were crazy and messed up. There was a scene where I actually was like, I didn't know you were allowed to do that. I actually didn't know you were legally allowed to put that in a movie. And if you've seen this movie, you probably know what I'm talking about. But I can't really rank it. That's actually one of the movies that I don't know how to rank it. The Lighthouse. I need to see it again. My respect for this movie keeps increasing the more I think about it. Atmosphere off the charts for this one. Another one of those sort of one location movies, barely any characters, literally just these two guys the whole movie. Very unique. Awesome visual style. So cool. Very twisty, turny, weird, wacky movie. A little experimentally, maybe. Especially for modern audiences. The Lodge. This one was fun. I liked this one. This one creeped me out. I liked it. The relationship with the kids and the babysitter was also really cool. Longlegs. All right. This one was advertised scariest movie ever since The Exorcist. It's not. It's kind of more like a crime thriller throughout most of it. It's great atmosphere. You never feel safe. I like the main character. My main issue is that I get it. You put Nicolas Cage in because that's why people went to see it. However, you don't need a star to sell a horror movie. And I think Longlegs actually would have been more effective as a scary figure if it wasn't Nicolas Cage. Yes, Nicolas Cage is a great actor. He's great at those wacky, crazy roles. But unfortunately, he's such a meme that when you have something that's supposed to be scary, all I see is Nicolas Cage. And the audience that was watching the movie with me in the theaters were laughing when Nicolas Cage was being scary. And I don't know, maybe some of that laughing was an uncomfortable laughter, but I was a little taken out of the movie because of that. Also, the ending felt sort of like okay, this was a mystery, but the answer is not that satisfying to me. Mama. It's been a while since I've seen it. Jamie Lannister. Boom. Don't remember a lot. Mama was creepy herself. Cool premise. Didn't really like the characters that much. Kind of just meandered a bit. I don't remember it a ton. Martyrs. Oh, God. All right. This is I'd say this is the most messed up movie I've ever seen. Especially for one that I actually like. The cake is pretty damn good, actually, with this one. There's a lot to unpack, and I can't talk about all of it in this short time frame, but when you have movies that are really messed up and disturbing and gross, most of the time, that's what the movie's going for, and that's it. They're not really trying to say anything else. They're not trying to even be a movie. This one is a movie, and it has characters that you care about. There are twists and turns. You feel bad for the characters when bad things happen to them. It's so violent, so messed up. Yeah, just it leaves you feeling like you were gutted. And the ending's crazy. It's a powerhouse to get through when you're watching it. It's exhausting because of how depressing and messed up it is. If you are looking for a movie to mess you up, this is it. Martyrs. The original. Don't watch the remake. It's garbage. I haven't seen it, but that's what I hear. Megan is missing. Oh, yeah. We're adding that to the bottom 5. Yeah. I think I have to put it at second place. I don't think I can put it above August Underground's Mordum. August Underground's Mordum is not even a movie. Megan is Missing is barely a movie. It is so micro budget. The writing, awful. The dialogue that they made these poor girls say is just gross. The plot is so stupid. It just, when I watch this movie, it pisses me off. Because it's not really a movie. And I don't know why people talk about it like, oh, this is one of the messed up movies I've ever seen. No, it's like, okay, yeah, there's on paper there's shocking stuff, but there's like nothing to hold on to with this movie. I strongly dislike this movie. Don't watch it. Like, it just pisses me off. The Menu. All right, people liked this one. I'm sorry, I was not super engaged. Ralph Fiennes is great. I love him. He plays one of my favorite characters in any movie ever, Harry in Bruges. Holy shit, he's so funny in that movie. So yeah, obviously he's great. He's like a horror version of Gordon Ramsay. I wasn't latched on to the characters really, and as a movie, it was unpacking itself. I was like, okay, I get it. Like, to me, there wasn't actually twists and turns in the movie. And I just, yeah, I was a little let down. I heard a lot of hype about this one. Didn't really love it. Okay, again, Midnight Mass, that's a mini-series. I can't talk about it. However, I love it. Midnight Mass is amazing. Favorite thing that Mike Flanagan has done. Midsommar. I need to see this movie again. I've only seen it once. I did not care for it when I first saw it. My main issue with this movie is that it's long, and most of the movie, the plot it loses itself for me. The beginning of the movie is amazing. It hooks you really well. It's messed up, freaky, and I'm attached to the main character, Florence Pugh. I really feel bad for her. I'm rooting for her. And then when you get to the cult stuff, it's a cool idea and great concept in terms of most of the movie is daytime. So it's a very opposite towards most horror movies, which take place in the dark. And it gets really trippy and wacky as the movie goes on. But because of that trippy wackiness, I wish the characters did more. Instead, the movie really is just things happen to the characters and that's it. They have very little agency. And I think because of that, and after that hook, I wish there was more agency to the characters, and I wish the plot was more focused, and the movie is a little shorter because of that. Trim the fat, focus the plot more. I see the themes paying off at the end more than I originally watched it, which is why I want to see it again. I think I would rank it a little bit higher on second watch, but for now, that's where I'm at. Misery! I like this. This is a classic. This is cool. Another movie that takes place mostly in one location, very few characters. Kathy Bates is very creepy and unnerving. I really like James Caan in this movie. He's funny because he's so good at just hiding the fact that he's so freaked out and just trying to keep this woman happy so she doesn't kill him. Yeah, this is a solid one. Solid, uncomfortable atmosphere. And the ending's really cool. When you get to the climax, it's so crazy and satisfying. Very fun. Oh, God. This is what? No, it's not. Why not have that as 1.5 star? No, that's 1 star. I'm adding it to the bottom 5. I don't like it. So this one, another shock value movie. It tries to do more. I don't think it does it a very good job. It's gross and disgusting. With the name like that, you can piece together, and this description, you can piece together what the movie's about. First of all, it looks fake as hell. It's not believable at all. Oh, and Chas Roth. No, I'm going in alphabetical order, so I have not talked about Saw yet. But as you can see, I have my top 5 and bottom 5 as we go along, and I update it live when I find new ones. As you can see, I just added Necromantic to the bottom 5 because it is a bottom 5 horror movie for me. For now, we'll see if it gets bumped out. Yeah, no, this movie's not it. Don't watch it. You're not going to get a whole lot out of it. Nightmare on Elm Street. Oh, shit. All right, we're going to try and go chronologically. Okay, the original. My favorite slasher movie, probably. I love Freddy Krueger. He's so cool. It's a little cheesy, but of all the original slasher movies, to me, this is the most movie-esque. There's an actual clear plot, clear protagonist with agency, desires, goals beyond just surface level, oh, she's a babysitter. It's like, no. And when the killer is coming up, we have characters actively trying to face him, instead of just run away or slowly die off and that's it. There's a lot more going on in the movie than that. The dream sequences are really creative. The kills are really creative. You know, this came out at a time where the slasher genre was starting to become exhausted. You know, people were like, I don't know what else you can do with this genre. Nightmare on Elm Street came along. I was like, nope, there's more. There's more to do. This is cool. Yeah, I very much enjoy Nightmare on Elm Street. Very nostalgic. Part 2. Disconnected from the original, not about the same characters. In hindsight now, after watching reviews for this movie, this is a gay movie. It is a metaphor for coming out of the closet or suppressed homosexuality, which is cool. Not a lot of movies about that. Freddy Krueger's actually scary in this one. He's not a goofball at all. But I just remember not really being hooked and not caring about the characters as much. And that's kind of it. Part 3. Part 3 is a great continuation of Part 1. You know, you explore the dreams more. The dream sequences are great again. They're getting even more creative. Freddy Krueger is starting to become more comedic, but he's still scary in this one. I'd recommend Part 3 after Part 1. Part 4, this is starting to get to where the series is dragging on, and I'm just not as engaged. This is no way a 2.5 star movie. It's definitely 2 stars. I don't know what I was thinking. Yeah, just slowly the series devolves into repetition. You introduce a cast of new characters, you set up who they are in the most basic surface level way, and then they all get killed off in a way that reflects their character. Yes, that's more than what most slasher movies go for, which is why I keep the rankings a little bit higher and why Nightmare on Elm Street would be my favorite slasher franchise. But It's surface level. It's all about the kills, and that's it by this point, and that's where I'm starting to lose interest. They try to have an overarching plot, but I just don't believe it. This one gets worse, so yeah, we're gonna do there. Same thing as part 4, just even worse. And also by part 5, he's just a campy goofball by that point. He's not scary anymore at all. And then Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare is way earlier, for those of you who were not there during the Fs. But Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare is obviously the worst one. And used to be in the bottom 5, but then we passed it. New Nightmare. So, earlier on, someone asked which Nightmare on Elm Street movie should he watch, and I said parts 1, 3, and New Nightmare, the 7th one. New Nightmare was Wes Craven's first array in meta horror movies before Scream. And unfortunately, because of that, by this point in the 90s, slasher movies were so exhausted, no one wanted to see them. Freddy Said the Final Nightmare bombed at the box office, no one cared about it. So once you have another Freddy Krueger movie coming out, no one saw it. However, it's not bad. It's not bad. I kind of like this movie. I want to watch it again. It has a really good kill. The picture right there. Spoiler. Freddy's actually scary again. The meta part is cool. Yeah, I don't mind it. All right. I know I'm going to get hot shit for this because, as you can see, no one likes this movie. I liked it. I genuinely enjoyed it when I saw it in theaters. It's been a while, though, so maybe I wouldn't like it if I were to rewatch it. But Nightmare on Elm Street remake, sure, kind of goes. I think what I like about this movie is it's actually dark and scary. The kills are well done, in my opinion. And I do care about Nancy, and especially Quentin, I think his name was, Kyle Gallner. I like him. One of my, what I think this movie does different is most horror movies, everyone dies off until it's just the final girl and that's it. In this movie, though, Kyle Gallner is with her the whole time. And my man gets beat the hell up, but he just keeps going. And he's just like this awkward, dorky, nerdy guy, but he just keeps fighting. Similar to the one character in Don't Breathe. And I don't know, I guess I'm biased because I have always been the dorky, nerdy guy. So I always like it when the dorky, nerdy guys don't just get killed off right away in horror movies. They fight back, you know? Night of the Living Dead. All right, the original, the ending's the best part of this movie. Very good ending. The premise is great. Unfortunately, it is a low-budget movie, and the plot's pretty paper-thin, and it takes a bit to really get going. However, everything you think about when it comes to horror apocalypse stuff, when it comes to hunkering down in a house, learning to survive with people that you don't really care for, some people being problematic and causing issues, people being infected, and you're not sure what to do with them, and you're afraid because they're part of your family or whatever. Oh, Chazroth, Nightmare Remake does seem like a Chris movie. Interesting. What do you mean by that? But yeah, Night of the Living Dead, it's dated, of course, but this set up a lot of classic stuff. Remake, I barely remember watching this, but it's sort of a retread of the original, a little bit more scary, I guess, just with tone and stuff. I don't know. It's just a remake, and that's it. There's kind of no point in seeing it. Just watch the original. Nope! Is what I say to this movie. Psych. I mean, I don't hate it, obviously. I just didn't get a lot out of it, honestly. Yeah, I was sort of like disconnected from this movie as I was watching it. I didn't really get what the point was. Watching a lot of stuff afterwards, I'm like, okay, I guess that's what it was going for. But I think by Nope, Jordan Peele's themes of what he's trying to say are not well established in his movie. It's sort of like you need the movie explained to you afterwards, and I just didn't get a lot of enjoyment out of Nope. The original Nosferatu. I have seen this when I was young, but can't rank it because I don't even remember it, and also it's a 1922 movie, so I don't even know how to rank it, really. But I saw a comment earlier on. I'm very excited for Robert Eggers' remake of Nosferatu coming up in December. I'm very excited for that. Definitely going to see it. Oculus. Okay. Mike Flanagan, obviously known as a pretty mid-horror movie, and that's how I would describe it. It's a mid-horror movie. Yes, there is cake to this. There is character development, there's plot, all that stuff. It's cool that we're bouncing back and forth between two timelines. However, dialogue, not that great. Sort of a movie that you kind of can just predict what's going to happen next and next. There's not a lot of freshness. Yeah, just kind of generic, basically. The Omen. I wanted to like this movie more. It is one of those classic older ones. The premise is cool. You have a little kid who's rumored to be the son of the devil, and people don't want to believe it. The Damien, it's all for you scene is really cool. But I just remember not being hooked on the characters too much. Maybe if I were to watch this again, it would be similar to The Exorcist, where I'm like, you know what? No, I can look past these slow, old pacing and enjoy it. Open Water. I didn't like this movie. I was bored. It was found footage, but not believable whatsoever. The characters, didn't believe them. Dialogue bad. Nah. Didn't care for it, really. Tried to be a little different. I think this movie had jellyfish stuff. It wasn't just sharks. It was jellyfish, but nothing compares to Jaws, obviously. 5 stars. Orphan. This one was cool when I was younger, and even as an adult, it's cool. It's really cool that you have a child actor being the source of the scares. She does a very good job of that. Yeah, it's a serviceable movie overall. The plot, character stuff, it's serviceable. There's actually a scene later on in the movie that's very uncomfortable. Very much like kind of one of those things where I'm like, I feel like if this movie came out now, people would be like up in arms. It would get canceled. There's some weird cancelable type stuff later on in this movie. Okay, real quick. I need to go to the bathroom, so I'm just going to set up the... We'll be right back after these messages. I'm not sure if you guys heard that because the Be Right Back screen did not have my microphone. So real quick, I'm going to go to the bathroom. Be right back. Alright, oh my god, Leo, what is your deal, bro? Trick or treat. Smell my feet. Okay. I'm gonna tell you right now, this wig is so, oh, my head hurts. It just feels so tight on my head. My goodness. Oh, alright, we're doing pretty well. I have to wrap up this stream within an hour. We're starting to speed run though, we're getting better. I always have so much to talk about. I always have so much to say. Okay, next page. Let me actually make sure my stream is still running. Okay, it is. Cool. Cool. By the way, shout out to some of you. Nick Productions. I think Brunsey as well. You guys have been here since like the very beginning of the stream. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for sticking around. I hope you're learning a lot of stuff, getting a lot of fun recommendations for these horror movies, all that. And yeah, I appreciate you guys. Also, I'm very curious what will change of the top 5 and bottom 5. I think I pretty much remember what my top 5 are, but the bottom 5, that's something that I don't actually know off the top of my head. I'm wondering if it will change any more than what's already there. Oh, there's a kill in the Nightmare remake that you basically did better in Sweet Dreams. There is? Huh? All I can think of is the PT-esque and then the fly at the camera. I don't remember that in Nightmare on Elm Street. Alright. Okay. Back to the movies. Page 9 of 13. Right? Oh, hell yeah. We got this. We got this, boys and girls. The Others. Twist ending horror movie. Twist ending is pretty cool. I remember this one being kind of fun, spooky overall. I want to see it again. It's on my watch list. Obviously not there, but a different watch list. Anyway, I want to see it again. I remember it being not bad, not bad. A good movie that keeps you questioning stuff. All right. Okay. Paranormal Activity. I saw this before Blair Witch Project, so I do have more nostalgia and bias towards this one. When I was younger, this movie did freak me out. First time I saw it, it did actually legitimately freak me out. Yes, I'm sure if I were to watch it now, I'd be a little disconnected from the non-scary scenes. This movie is definitely one of those plot structure, character stuff, then scary scenes, but it works better because it's found footage, so you're willing to sort of accept the slow burn stuff because it's like, oh, it's real life. And especially if you're young, when you watch this, you believe it more, and that's why it worked on me. And for it being very low budget, there are some sequences that I still am kind of like, how did they do that? That was pretty cool. The acting's a little goofy, sure, but yeah, pretty good. I saw the second one, and I didn't like it at all. I was bored to death. Apparently people like this movie. I remember not liking it. I was just like, all right, I'm bored. And that's the only other Paranormal Activity movie I saw. That was it. I was like, you know what? I'm full after the first one. I'm good. I don't need more. Pearl. I have not seen X or Maxine, and all I heard was Pearl was the best one, and I can believe it. Pearl, unique horror movie. You basically, your protagonist is the villain, and she is a tragic villain. You feel very bad for her. She is someone who is not mentally well, and you can understand why she is the way she is, and you feel bad for her. Really, it's Mia Goth's performance is what carries this film. There is a, I think, 8-minute monologue sequence that's one take, and it's brilliant. It's just brilliant. She goes through so many different emotions, all in one take. Flawless execution, just wow. That's really the main takeaway from Pearl. If you're looking for a good performance, watch that one. Okay, Phantom of the Paradise. My screenwriting teacher has this as his favorite horror movie of all time, and it is sort of a horror comedy. Let's see if it's, yeah, fantasy, music, comedy, horror. So it's a lot of wacky stuff. I watched it while I was in college, and I did not like it at all, but I decided to unrank it because I think I just missed what it was. I just missed what it was about. So this is wacky. Poltergeist. I saw this a few times when I was younger. Nostalgia a bit. It's one of those classics from the 80s. Spooky fun. The clown scene freaked me out. The clown scene was really freaky when I was young. I think I saw that on TV when I was a kid, and it scared me. Oh, the main jump scare at the end of Sweet Dreams. That's interesting. You're saying that, and I'm like trying to remember where that would have been in the Nightmare on Elm Street movie. I don't remember. Huh. The Poughkeepsie tapes. This one's supposed to be a dark, disturbing one. I don't remember it a ton. Yeah, I like barely remember this movie, honestly. I just remember not being engaged and kind of bored. Prometheus? Is this a horror movie? Maybe. Yeah, a lot has been said about this movie. Its plot is a little meandering. The characters act a little dumb. It's a retread of Alien. There's some fun surprises. There's a sequence with a flamethrower that's pretty freaky and scary and creepy. But, yeah, if you've seen Alien, you've seen a better movie. Psycho! The original slasher, even though I don't consider it a slasher. Yeah. Another strong shift type movie. Sort of a genre shift halfway through the movie or so. The scenes that you know from this movie happen in a very surprising way when you sit down to watch it. When you're watching this movie for the first like 45 minutes, you're like, when are we going to get to the psycho? And then you do, and you're like, oh shit. Anthony Perkins as Norman Bates is one of my favorite horror performances. He's so cool, so creepy and unnerving. Obviously, the shower scene, amazing. There's also a jump scare near the end of the movie that always gets me. When I first watched it, that one got me. And anytime I show people that movie, it gets them. It gets them. And then the ending's really cool as well. However, what I get disconnected from it is I think it does meander a bit, especially after the shower scene. The movie has a pretty good build up to that, and then after that, it kind of slows down a bit, and you're like, okay, I kind of miss that character, and I'm a little like, So, yeah. The Purge. Yeah, it's fine. Good premise. Ethan Hawke's pretty good. You got Cersei Lannister. So now we have both Lannister twins in horror movies. We had Cersei and we had Jaime Lannister in Mama. That's funny. Also, Ethan Hawke now appeared twice. He's going to appear 3 times, actually, once we get to Sinister. Wow. Good for him. Yeah. It's alright. It's a fun premise. It's cool when the killings are happening. Ending's interesting. That's about it. Not much else to say. Never saw any of the others. I don't need to. Oh, wait, no, I did. Wait, I did, though. Where is it? Where's the Purge Anarchy? I saw it. I love that as we're going through this list, I'm realizing movies that I forgot to rank. Wow, I forgot to rank it. Sure, 2 stars. I didn't really care for the sequel that much. It just kind of felt like a retread of the original, and that was about it. I didn't care about really any of the characters other than the main guy, because he was a badass, and that was it. Because the first movie didn't have any badasses. It had characters that had to, become badasses. This one, we had one guy who was just a badass and leading the way, and that was fun. A Quiet Place. It's cool. I think this movie works way better the first time you watch it. After that, when you watch it a second time, you're kind of like, all right, this isn't as fresh now. Some pretty good cake overall with the main characters. I do think a certain character death is not as satisfying as I wish it was. It has a good emotional impact, but then the logic of it doesn't make sense to me, and I think was unearned with the emotion. I'm kind of like, you didn't really have to do that. Which also means this is not 3 stars. This one is cool because it's a continuation, but because the idea is not fresh anymore, it's not, it's not fresh. And, tried our best, but there's this weird thing where the characters all split up, and I'm just like, okay. I mean, I know scary things are going to happen, and I felt like a lot of the scary things that happened in this movie were because characters were dumb, which was similar to the first one, but it's worse in this one. Coolest part of this movie, though, Cillian Murphy's great. I love Cillian Murphy. Ooh, he appeared in 2 movies now, 28 Days Later in this one. But then also, Emily Blunt is really good again. She carries it. I do miss John Krasinski, though, in this movie. The kids have a really great climactic sequence that intercuts 2 different scenes, and I thought that was really cool. Raw. All right, Raw rivals The Fly and another horror movie that has been very popular and talked about lately, which we will get to when we get to the S's, which we're very close to. Raw's gross. Raw is gross in a different way. It is subtle. It doesn't show a lot of outwardly disgusting things. All you need to know about this movie is college girl slowly realizes she likes eating human flesh. Maybe the most disgusting thing you can think of. Well, maybe not. I don't know. On paper, cannibalism is yeah, really cool. There's some good themes in this one. I want to watch it again. I could see it going higher than 3.5 stars. And as we unravel why and her story, it's pretty cool. And the ending's crazy. The ending grossed me out. Ready or Not. Ready or Not's fun. Good sort of meta comedy horror. Samara Weaving. Her performance is really good. It's fun overall. Fun little romp. Have a good time watching that one. A little more just fun horror. Reanimator. This one was cool. It's cheesy and campy and a little old and dated, but... and a badass opening credits music. Main theme of this movie is so catchy. I love it. Yeah, this one's fun. This one's wacky and just has such insane sequences. And you're just like, man, this movie's just having a good time. So this is another fun one. Wreck. All right, this is a good zombie movie. If you're thinking I want to see good zombie movies, Wreck is one of them. Yes, it's Spanish. Get over it. It's a good movie. Just watch it. I think it's Spain. I think. Pretty sure. Yeah, it's also a found footage horror movie, so that's unique as well. This one's great. Some really good scares, genuinely creepy, unnerving, really great use of found footage as well. I would recommend it. Wreck is good. Definitely watch it over VHS, the American remake. I most of the time I will recommend watch the original over the American remake. Nick Productions is a person who's currently taking microbio. I didn't really enjoy Reanimator. I mean, yeah, of course it's gonna break every rule in the book with that, but oh, Wreck is a top 5 for you, Brunsey, or is it Reanimator? I don't know where you're at in my list so far. The Reef. Again, I had heard stuff about some of these shark movies after Jaws. I'm like, there's other good shark movies out there, right? Nope. I didn't like The Reef. Didn't care about any of the characters. Paper thin plot. Didn't care. Moving on. All right, 4 pages to go. We got this. Resident Evil. Oh my God. We got 2 franchises back to back. Resident Evil and Saw. Let's do this. All right. The original Resident Evil. I have so much nostalgia for this movie. I accept that there is no good Resident Evil movie. Fine, I accept it. I am biased. I have so much nostalgia for this movie. It was one of the first horror movies I ever saw, one of the first zombie horror movies I ever saw. I saw these movies before I even played a Resident Evil game. And the first Resident Evil game that I played was 5. So my experience with the Resident Evil franchise is so different. And on paper, the worst way you could experience Resident Evil franchise. However, the Resident Evil game series, I would say, is my second favorite video game series behind Halo. There's a lot of Resident Evil games that I love. My main 4 that I love are... I do love Resident Evil 5. I accept it's not a good Resident Evil game, but as a co-op, fun, sort of horror shooter, very fun. Resident Evil 2 Remake, probably the best of every world you can think of when it comes to horror. Or actually, okay, I'll go in order. Resident Evil 5, not a good Resident Evil game, but very fun co-op. Awesome. Resident Evil 4, the most popular, famous one, revolutionized survival horror, third-person shooters as well. Very fun. The control scheme is wonky. I definitely hated playing the original version. I could not play it. But then when they did the soft remaster later on, it fixed the control scheme a bit. And then once you get used to the control scheme, it's very fun. Very awesome. Sort of item management, slow progression, light RPG elements, great environments. Yeah, just classic. Resident Evil 7, very different, but the scariest horror game, or the scariest Resident Evil game. I've been talking for so long, my brain's starting to melt. Also, this fucking wig is like breaking my head. It's so tight. Anyway, Resident Evil 7, revolutionized franchise again. Very, very scary horror game, first person as well. Very different from the other Resident Evil games, but highly recommend it. And then finally, Resident Evil 2 Remake. Honestly, the best of all 3 worlds. It is scary, like Resident Evil 7. It has the great survival horror elements, third-person control scheme of Resident Evil 4. I mean, yeah, it's basically those 2 mixed together a bit. Resident Evil 2 Remake is highly recommended. I love all 4 of those games. So, yeah, there we go. Anyway, back to the movies. Let's talk about horror movies. Yeah, the premise of going underground. Okay, yeah, actually, real quick. Nerf Gun Zombie Attack. This movie was its inspiration. You have a squad of people going somewhere and getting trapped, and one by one, they all get killed off. That's Resident Evil, the original movie. I like the Resident Evil movies when they're not trying to copy the games. And this original one barely had anything to do with the games. And I kind of like that. Yes, it's cheesy, paper-thin plot a bit. Okay, maybe you don't care about the characters a ton. I do have a lot of nostalgia. So, like, for example, Michelle Rodriguez. I really like her character. My favorite thing in horror movies is when you have a character who just keeps getting beat up throughout the whole movie, and you kind of know they're gonna die, and like maybe they got infected early on, but they're still fighting through it, and then they just keep getting beat up more and more, and it's like, come on, how long are you gonna last? Michelle Rodriguez was one of the maybe the first character that I ever witnessed in a movie like this that did that, and that was really cool. Yeah, solid. I like it. Also, the infection sequence early on when the outbreak happens, I think is legitimately great. I think anyone who watches the Resident Evil movies would be like, no, that was a great sequence. Apocalypse. Obviously not as good as the first one. Main thing is that you don't care about the characters as much. Yes, it's fun that we're running around the city and we have like Nemesis running around. I also like Carlos Rivera. I think he's cool. Mila Jovovich, it's cool that she's becoming more badass and accepting of her powers and stuff. But yeah, just not quite as interesting or engaging as the first one. Third one. Hot take, best Resident Evil movie. It finally decides to kind of go higher budget. We go in the future, I don't know how much more, maybe several months, but whole planet is infected now. And it is a full-on extinction apocalypse where the weather has changed. Las Vegas is now buried in sand. And it is full-on survival mode. Mila Jovovich's character is at her best in this one because she is super powerful, but has to stay in hiding because of that. Carlos Rivera, great character, similar to Mila Jovovich in the first one, but we also had an entire movie before this to like him. Mila Jovovich actually has a character arc in this one as well. The zombies look great. They're really freaky in this one. The action sequences are fun. Yeah, I have a really good time with Resident Evil Extinction. I actually think it's a relatively like decent movie. Then we get to this fucking movie. No. You going on the list, Resident Evil Afterlife. I'm telling you, this is why I stay away from watching every movie in a franchise. Because, ooh boy, do you eventually run into one that'll piss you off. Resident Evil Afterlife, congratulations, you're above Jason Takes Manhattan now. So, people complain that the Resident Evil franchise are barely movies. Wait, what just happened? Alright, I guess Necromantic's above Friday the 13th, whatever. We're about to get another half star anyway, so it doesn't matter. Yeah, so you know how the first 3 Resident Evils were kind of building up to something, and the third one was like, damn, we actually really are getting into like an interesting story now. This is cool. Resident Evil Afterlife fully admits, all right, we don't know where to take the story, so we're just going to reset everything. Who cares? And it pisses me off to no end. I really felt like there was an interesting story being built up, and then they dropped it all. They did just a complete rewrite of everything, and there's no story after this. There's really no story. Just nothing matters anymore. They overly insert so many Resident Evil things into this movie, and it's bad. All the action sequences play out in painful, unfun slow-mo. The visual effects are garbage. I just have nothing good to say about this movie. I really hate it. It pisses me off. Moving on. Resident Evil 5. Yeah. Well, also, with Resident Evil 4, Afterlife, and this one, they kind of are barely movies, dude. Like, there's, like, no story at all. I guess I like this one more than Resident Evil Afterlife, but that's because by this point, I mean, I'm already pissed off, so it's not like they can piss me off more. It's just like, who cares? They try something cute with, like, a reopened infection sequence, outbreak sequence. I don't care. It's barely a movie. There's really almost no plot to any of these movies, so I don't care. Final chapter. Fine. The minimal amount of interesting things happen in this movie that I give it an extra half a star, and that's it. Still barely a movie. Attempts to somehow wrap up everything like they planned it from the beginning, but it doesn't work, and it's bad, and it's garbage. Return of the Living Dead. Couldn't you tell that I hated a lot of those Resident Evil movies? God. We have 2 in the bottom 5! Oh my god. Return of the Living Dead. I want to see this one again. It's a horror comedy, which a lot of times horror comedies I have difficulty with because I prefer horror over comedy, and comedy to me lessens the impact of the horror. So in general, it's like, okay, yeah, it's funny and cute, but I kind of wanted some horror, you know? Usually horror comedies are a comedy movie that takes place in a horror atmosphere. And Return of the Living Dead's one of the OGs of this, I think. I don't remember a ton about this one. I watched it in college as part of my horror comedy research because I was writing a horror comedy at the time. Yeah, I don't remember a ton. I want to rewatch it, though. Ringu, or Ring, the original. I was disappointed, bro. I was disappointed. What doesn't help is I saw the original when I was a kid, and I saw it a couple more times after that, so I already knew what to expect. I mean, listen, sometimes the atmosphere is good in this one. It's not overindulgent. It's very subtle and effective. But a lot of times I was not engaged in this movie, bro. I just had trouble, staying entertained, honestly. And the scares didn't get to me as much. And it just meandered. I just felt kind of bored at times. I was disappointed. I wanted to like that movie. The American remake of The Ring. I think people generally consider this a good remake overall. And I like it. The closet jump scare is one of the best jump scares ever. I remember as a kid, that freaked me out. The ending is metal as hell. Yeah, and it's a good classic premise. You know, you watch a tape and then you get a phone call and in 7 days you die, and that's it. And what's fun about that rule is there's a countdown, and the countdown keeps the tension going. Also, pretty good kid performance in this one as well. Naomi Watts also now has appeared in, she'll appear in 3 horror movies on this list because she was in, wait, no. Was that Naomi Watts? Well, wait, Naomi Watts was in Funny Games. I think that was that Naomi Watts? No, I don't think it was Naomi Watts. Man, I forget who was in the others. Was it Naomi Watts? Someone comment, I forget. For some reason, my brain is thinking of someone else. I don't think it's Naomi Watts. I think I'm being racist towards blondes. The Ring 2. I remembered liking it as a kid, but it seems like general consensus is this is not a very good sequel. I think it gets goofy at times. I don't remember it a ton. I think I liked the ending. The ending was kind of satisfying. Nicole Kidman! Yep. Sorry, blondes. Sorry. Yeah. Naomi Watts was in... No, it was Nicole Kidman was in the others. Thank you, Nick Productions. Rosemary's Baby, the most recent movie on this list that I watched. I watched it 2 days ago. The premise is cool. It's a slow burn. Yes, pretty good, uncomfortable atmosphere at times. Sometimes interesting little twists. Mia Farrow's really good. I kind of was a little frustrated, though, where I was like, I think I already know where this movie's headed this whole time. And Mia Farrow, takes so long to catch up to the audience. And I think that makes her not as rootable of a protagonist. I wish she was smarter. And I get it, she's going through a lot, but I was like, my biggest problem with this movie, other than the fact that I thought it was a little too slow burn and kind of like, all right. The ending. The ending is sort of like you're waiting for the reveal. You're waiting for like the answer to your questions of what this movie has been about. Then they happen, and that's it. Then the movie's over. And it's like, oh, okay. Like, I wanted more after that, you know? There we go. I updated that, fixed that. So yeah, but 3 stars. Yeah. Happy Halloween to MT the Doodle King. We're in the R's, but we're about to enter the S's. We're about to get to some interesting ones. Gonna do a Saw franchise. But first, Run! Run's fun. Run's fun. It's a good one person trapped in a house. Minimal character stuff. The last chapter part of this movie, the last like third, gets really wacky and different, which is fun. Sarah Paulson's really good, of course, of American Horror Story fame. She's a great actress. Yeah, solid movie overall. Pretty good. Salo, or the 120 Days of Sodom. If you know disturbing horror movies, you know this movie. I think, again, I'd already seen Martyrs, so this just doesn't stack up. Very little plot. There's no, like, protagonist, I think. No characters, really, to talk about. Yeah, it's gross and disgusting. And that's it. That's what the movie's about. That's it. There's nothing else to latch on to, so I'm just kind of like, all right. Saw! Okay. First of all, I've not seen Jigsaw or Spiral. I've seen all the other Saw movies, but I've not seen those two. I'll get to why. But first, Saw 1. All right, 4.5 stars. We're adding it to the list. Let's go. Let's freaking go. It's been a while since we added one to this list. It's going to go above Evil Dead. The Babadook is now gone. Is it going to go above 28 Weeks Later, bro? Is it going to do that? I think it is. I think I just have more attachment to Saw. I've seen Saw maybe like 6 times, bro. I've seen this movie a lot. For a low-budget horror movie, it is so effective. I remember the ending to this movie when I first saw it. My mind was blown. And when I show people this movie, the ending gets them every time. It's such a great ending. Even before that ending, the climax of the movie. Yes, it's a little cheesy now, but when I first saw this movie as a kid, the Saw scene freaked me out. I was like, this movie's so messed up. This is a nightmare. This is such a great mystery. When you think of Saw, you don't think of this movie because this movie is not torture porn at all. It is a psychological crime mystery. It's not really a messed up horror movie until the end. Great twists and turns, great mystery, great 2 main characters. Yes, some of the acting is a little goofy and cheesy. Yes, some of the music choice is also pretty funny and a little dated, but very creative editing. A lot of great transitions. The fast, frenetic, messed up trap sequences are awesome. The entire lore aspect, there's so much promise to this, so much that you're interested in that no wonder it got sequels. Just amazing. I really love this movie. One of my favorite horror movies ever. Only reason it's not 5 stars is because of the dated aspects I talked about and the objectively low quality stuff like the acting, some of the dialogue, a little bit of stuff like that. Okay, it's a little out of order, which is dumb, but first let's do Saw 2. I like Saw 2. I really like it. Obviously, it's not as good as the first one, but for a continuation of the plot setup in the first one, I love that right away in this movie, we get Jigsaw being caught by the police right away. Immediately, that sets this movie up different from the first. We have another simultaneous trap sequence, but also a police sequence. And they are connected not secretly. They are connected directly because the detective, his son, is trapped. And he wants to save his son. The trap is unique because it's in a house now. They're able to move around. But now it's like people need to work together. Come on. Yes, a lot of the characters in the house are not very well fleshed out and they're kind of annoying, and some of the problems of the Saw franchise, we start to see the seeds of them being sowed in this one, but they do not ruin the movie for me. I think the traps are realistic enough and not ridiculous yet. The needle sequence, oh my god, try watching that without feeling uncomfortable, bro. Yeah, overall, very fun, intense. I love all the scenes with Detective Matthews and Jigsaw. I enjoy Saw 2. I think it's very good and exciting. Saw 3. Yeah, I'm just going to bump this down to 2.5 now already. Do I keep it at 3? Two and a half for 3. 2.5 for 3. 3, fine. I'll be nice. Okay. Saw 3 has aspects of it that I love. I love everything with Amanda and Jigsaw. I love that entire part with the nurse lady. I do not like the traps, and this is where the franchise started embracing what people watched it for, which is not why I watched it. I did not watch Saw for the violence, for the traps. I watched it for the intrigue of who Jigsaw was, the mystery around him, trying to capture him and stop him, and characters that I care about reaching realistic catharsis through the trauma and violence that they're being put under, and hoping that they get out of it. By Saw 3, I don't care about the characters as much, especially the main guy going through the traps. Jeff, I hate him. He is not rootable at all. He's an asshole. He's mean. He's slow. He's stupid. I do not like him. The traps really become overindulgent and just torture porny by this point. The catharsis at the end is cool. I love all the twist sequences at the end for like who the game was actually for. Jigsaw, you know, now he's on his deathbed by this point. That's really cool. The brain surgery sequence is so crazy. Oh my god. Yeah, certain things about this movie I thought were set up brilliantly and could have been really cool. Also, the very intro is so metal as hell. Detective Matthews breaking his foot to escape. That was awesome. Unfortunately, it doesn't get paid off at all. And this is also where we really start seeing just mysteries being set up that never get paid off, and also, you know, obvious setup for sequels. And yeah, I think this was the turning point for the franchise a bit, where we started realizing what it was actually going to become, which is where we get to Saw 4. This is when they started just coming up with shit to keep it going because it was such a popular franchise. Jigsaw's dead, but I guess not. I really like Riggs, I think his name is, Lieutenant Rigg. I really like him. He was a rootable protagonist, but the entire idea behind his traps never made sense to me, where it's like, you have to let people save themselves. I'm like, nah, that's stupid. Oh, also, when they killed off Carrie in the third one, that was when I started feeling like, uh-oh, we're just killing people off for shock value now, because she was the main character we should have been following. She was there in the first one. She was the last one of her team left. And then in this one, it's like, well, no, Rigg is the last one of his team left. And I'm like, he wasn't really in the third one, and like, yeah, he was in the second one, but he wasn't really a big character in the second one. He was like just kind of, you know, supporting. So it's weird that now he's a main character. I don't really care about him as much, even though I like him. I think he's a cool guy. Yeah, this sort of torture porn really started setting in. The mystery, Detective Matthews is wasted as a character after all the build up for him. He's wasted. And yeah, I think this is where the series starts to let me down a bit. Saw 5. Let's skip ahead real quick so we can find it. Saw 5's dumb. I love the opening sequence. That's cool. But other than that, I do not care about the characters going through the trap. The saw and the arm sequence is crazy. I never liked how at the end he doesn't say game over. That always pissed me off. It's like, come on. It's like your thing. Say game over. Yeah, this one, I think what really upsets me about this movie is that we finally had a main character detective guy who survived a trap, which is very rare for the franchise. So I was rooting for him, but this is where the franchise really was just like, no, everyone dies, everyone sucks, it's violent, the end, and that's all that matters. And it's like, well then if that's all that matters, why are you trying to tell a story? It's clear you don't really care about the story, and also you're making it up as you go along. Like, yeah, there's big twists and turns, but it's like, come on, that was not your original intention. So yeah, Saw 5, yeah, really torture porny. Saw 6, a little bit higher just because the main guy going through the traps, I root for him a little bit more. Like, he actually has an interesting arc, I guess. And it's kind of fun seeing Hoffman now being the main character, and he's the villain, and he's trying to avoid stuff. The ending is also metal as hell and really cool. But I'm just kind of exhausted by this point. I'm just kind of like, these twists are like, come on, where are we headed? And where we were headed to, oh boy, we were not headed to a good place. We were headed to Saw 3D, the final chapter. This movie's bad. This movie's not good. Okay, fine. The twist ending of it being, spoiler alert, Gordon, unspoiler alert, being behind it all at the end. Sure, fine, serviceable, I guess. They tried. This movie looks bad. The blood looks very fake. I think it's because of the 3D. The blood looks pink. The effects don't look as good anymore. Who cares about the characters? Like, who cares? Very cheesy. We have a lot of dumb dream sequences that just interrupt the pacing horribly. And by the end, I'm just like, who cares? This is just torture porn at this point. So yeah. By that point, I'm done. I'm done with those Saw movies until Saw X came out, and I heard it was actually good. And I was like, fine. Because Jigsaw, I didn't care about Jigsaw. Never saw it. Spiral, heard it was bad. Never saw it. Saw X, I heard it was good. Fine. It's like the 4th best Saw movie. It's not bad, but again, I think the promise of, oh, Jigsaw's alive, but he's very sick and he's looking for help, and then he's betrayed by the people that he was hoping would help him. That's cool. But then again, my entire problem with the franchise is that Jigsaw has a philosophy about life, and it's that people do not appreciate their lives until they're threatened for losing it, and they must sacrifice a piece of themselves to realize that life is worth living, and they have a new appreciation for it. But and his traps, he's creative, and he tries to attach them to the characters and what they're missing about them, but they're believable. But by this point, every character just dies. No one ever learns their lessons. They just die, and they die in overly gruesome fashions to the point where it's ridiculous and it's overindulgent. And clearly that's not what the story's about. It's not really about the catharsis of these characters. It's about how eventually they all get killed in gruesome ways. And I get it. That's why a lot of people liked Saw, because it was like Terrifier. It was super hyper violent. Oh my God, I can't wait. It's not why I liked Saw. I was interested in Saw for different reasons, and that's why the franchise kind of went down the tube for me. Saw X had potential to be a little bit more interesting, but eventually it just became torture porn again, so, yeah. Uh-oh. Scrifivum. I don't know why Scrifivum is before Scriforum. Actually, let's go in order. Scream 1. Scream 1, solid, great, very creative, fun twists and turns. Maybe drags a little bit, not quite as scary as I wish it was. A little cheesy, a little dated, but very classic and good. Scream 2, I only ever saw the rest of these Screams once. Scream 2, somewhat good continuation, trying to play on the twist of a sequel now, but, you know, still kind of retreading the original. Scream 3, I hear is not good at all. I only saw it once when I was young. Literally just another continuation, that's it. Nothing new really added. They're just trying. Scriforum, I remember kind of liking. A little bit more going on here. The last sequence of the movie is fun and different. We actually hang out with the killer for a while and follow them instead for once. And the twist of the killer is also better than the last two movies, at least. So yeah, there's that. Scream 5, I'm sorry, I did not like this fucking movie at all, dude. I saw it on an airplane, which didn't help. There's a main character death in this movie that really upsets me, because they finally had that character being interesting and different, and that character had been there since the beginning and had a very interesting character arc throughout the franchise that was consistent, and in this one, that character was at their most interesting. And they were very important to the main character, who had no idea really what she was, you know, how do I survive this stuff? This is scary. Scream, it's back. And then they kill off this main character in the dumbest way possible, and it just feels like, oh no, they died in a horror movie, so sad, right? And I'm like, dude, you had so much potential with this character, and you did nothing. I'm upset. So that was the main thing that upset me about the movie. Other than that, I just didn't really see anything fresh. So that movie really pissed me off. And I've not seen Scream 6 for that reason. Seed of Chucky. Oh man, this one was way down the line. I remember when I first saw this movie, I didn't like it. Maybe I'd appreciate it more because it's just a comedy at this point. Who cares? Sure, it's interesting. You got the child of Chucky. Also interesting now, there's gender identity discussion themes in this movie, which maybe would make it more interesting now that I watch it, because that's actually something that is in the mainstream now, and I do understand it. I'm sure back when this movie was made, it was more used as a joke. Actually, I think there is some exploration of it that's fair and not mean-spirited. I don't know. That's like the main thing that stands out with this movie, and all I really remember of it. A Serbian film! Oh, boy. Okay. All right. Yeah. So, this was the original messed up movie I saw. I was 15. And this high schooler, he was a senior. He told me about a Serbian film. This is one of those movies, again, that is really just there for the shock value. There's a serviceable plot, and fine. But it's kind of just the icing. It's just the messed up stuff. It is messed up. It's pretty crazy. It's competently made, and the ending is just insane. Like, if you see this movie, all the insane things you can think about happen in this movie. Just sick to your stomach type stuff. But that's about it. It's really all you can get out of that movie. Shaun of the Dead, one of my favorite horror comedies. Maybe my favorite, other than Zombieland. Shaun of the Dead's a classic. I like Edgar Wright. This was his first movie. Very well done. I love the long sequences of Shaun going to work in the beginning, and then again later on. It's all repeated. Very clever movie. surprisingly emotional later on. Like, it's a comedy, but they actually really get to some good emotional peaks later on. Just an overall very satisfying horror movie. If you love zombies, this is a good parody of it, while also kind of being a zombie movie, not just a comedy. It is a zombie movie. The Shining. Shining's being added to the list. Sorry, Evil Dead Remake. You are bumped out of the top 5. The Shining beat you. Bum, bum, bum. All right, The Shining. This movie I've seen, I believe, 4 times. Every single time I see it, I like it more. When I first saw it as a kid, I probably would have given it like 3 stars. I was like, all right. Then when I saw it again, maybe 3.5 stars. Then when I saw it again, almost 4 stars. The last time I saw this movie, maybe a year ago, it clicked. It clicked for me. The hotel is a character. I don't know why. That never clicked for me earlier. But when you understand that the hotel is a character in itself, a living being, and it is manipulating the main characters, it works a lot better. Because without that, you do feel a disconnect from the main characters. They very often don't really behave like normal people. The main character is Jack Torrance. He is kind of always bad from the beginning. You never have a sense that he actually it was a good guy and then became bad and psychotic. He always, just something was up about him. Yeah, the hotel itself. This is atmosphere amalgamate again. The atmosphere of this movie is unmatched. What really works about this horror movie is that it is not overly trying to scare you. It is very quiet and subtle and slow burning, and then it'll surprise you. Sure, some of it is a little dated now, some of the effects itself, but something about this atmosphere is unstoppable. This is a movie you can unpack for years and still not really understand it or find new interpretations of it. It is known as one of the greats for a reason, and it only clicked with me recently. And I love this movie. It just so much to unpack. Stanley Kubrick, of course, mastermind. God, so cool. So cool. Silence of the Lambs. All right, I need to see it again. I know. It's blasphemy. I don't even have it as 4 stars. I've seen it like 4 times, though. I don't know. It's been a while. Obviously, Hannibal Lecter, Anthony Hopkins' performance is unmatched. Buffalo Bill's really crazy as well in this movie. And also great protagonist, Jodie Foster's character, Clarice Starling. She has a great character arc that you're rooting for throughout the movie. It is a really good movie. Unfortunately, every time I watch it, I just am not as engaged as I want to be. But maybe I need to see it again. Maybe it just hasn't clicked for me yet. Silent Hill. Saw this a long time ago, barely remember it. All I know is that the atmosphere of the actual town of Silent Hill is amazing. I've played some of Silent Hill 2, but that game's really hard to play, honestly. And I always get lost and don't know what to do, and then I end up giving up on it. So I don't know a whole lot about Silent Hill itself. I just know about the town, the nurses, Pyramid Head. That's about it. And that it's psychological. I'm sure, though, fans of the Silent Hill games didn't really care for this movie. I'm sure it didn't really do it justice. Sinister. To me, this is the most average horror movie ever. Ethan Hawke again. We got 3 now. Average horror movie ever. Very loud, obnoxious jump scares. The ending one especially, I'm just like, oh my god, like you're just trying to be a carnival ride at this point. However, the lawnmower jump scare, one of the best jump scares. That freaked me out. Sixth Sense. All right. Obviously, one of the greatest twist endings of all time. Haley Joel Osment may be the best child performance in anything ever. He's just brilliant. That's where I would say those are the 2 best parts of this movie and the only parts that I actually love. Everything else about this movie I think is serviceable at times. Sometimes there's good stuff. There's some good scary sequences, some good jump scares. However, I do think this movie's a little overrated. I am not the biggest M. Night Shyamalan fan. I think that his dialogue is troublesome. His writing isn't the greatest. His characters behave a little ridiculous. This one, though, is his best, of course. It's always known as his best. And what it's going for, I think it does a pretty good job. I do think it's a little overrated, though, and when I watch it, I do zone out a little bit. But certain aspects like the ending and Halo Joe Osment's performance, brilliant. Splice. This one's wacky. This is a fun, wacky movie. Some good twists and turns here and there, some creepy stuff. It's a good one. It's a good one. Good creature one. Split! I didn't like Split. Sorry, didn't like it. Yes, James McAvoy's cool. It's great. I don't really care about the main characters. The movie's very slow. The characters act dumb. Dialogue's bad. I'm just kind of waiting for stuff to happen. Also, a lot of people have really ripped on this movie for this recently, and like I'm not gonna get on a soapbox necessarily. I'm just gonna just try and objectively say, like, okay, the movie. Wait, let me make sure. Okay, cool. The movie's about multiple personality disorder. But then you have a personality that is actually just like a full-on beast that changes his entire body, and he's a psycho killer. That's not multiple personality disorder. That's just full-on fantasy realm. So if you're gonna claim that you're a movie that is diving deep into a little-known topic, that is a sort of a difficult, unfortunate topic. People who suffer from multiple personality disorder, it's very difficult for them. This movie feels like a betrayal because of that reason, because it's not actually being fair to that story. So yeah, Split, not really a big fan. All right, 2 pages left to go, 15 minutes till I need to wrap it up. So, Strangers, barely remember this. Very good atmosphere, slow burn, slow, scary horror. That's about it. Don't really remember a lot. Oh, this is a short film, but the strange thing about the Johnsons is really wacky. Ari Aster before Hereditary, so, you know. The Substance, the hottest horror movie out right now. Yes, body horror, great body horror, great themes of female stars and celebrities. What do they know? Do they know things? Let's find out. The sad reality of aging female stars and how they're pushed aside because it's all about the young hot ones and what you would do to be hot and young again, and the sacrifices of that. Great. This movie is awesome for you to not know a whole lot about it and to just go in and get ready, because it's a windy, twisty movie. You are gonna have such crazy messed up sequences. Very unnerving, gross, great. Only thing that I didn't care for was the climax of the movie. I felt that the climax betrayed the real tone and seriousness of the message that it was going for. I thought it kind of went too far in the camp realm and just ridiculous and not believable anymore. And I'm just like, wait, what? Okay. But then the actual ending stuff, the ending like shots, brilliant, amazing. So this was almost 4.5 stars, honestly. It was a very fun theater sequence. Suspiria. I haven't seen the original. I saw the remake. I was kind of bored. I was kind of disconnected. This is another one of those movies where things just happen to characters and they don't really do anything about it, and that's it. Sweeney Todd, the demon barber of Fleet Street. That's me. Ha 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 ha. Yes. Hiya. There we go. We did it. Sweeney Todd. I love the musical. I love the story of Sweeney Todd. It's really cool, really classic. Yes, musical movies, it's a struggle. It's a struggle to get a musical movie right. Tim Burton, of course, has not been at his peak for a while. I think this was before his sort of downfall a bit, you know, at least for the general consensus of his filmography. I think Alice in Wonderland was a turning point. 2007, this was the first R-rated horror movie I saw in theaters. I was 10 years old. And this movie's bloody. It gets really violent at the end. It messed me up. I remember leaving the theater shaking because I was just so freaked out by how violent it got at the end. But Sweeney Todd's fun. I think the music is very fun. You know, it is horror because it's messed up. You know, you have a psycho killer who uses a shaving blade to kill his enemies when they least expect it. They come in for a shave and secretly he then kills them. And it's really fun and cool and good tense story. And the ending is metal as hell. It's such a crazy ending. Great tragedy movie. I'd recommend it. Taking of Deborah Logan. This one's got some good scary sequences, some surprising stuff that really freaks you out, a lot of subtle horror that's not in your face about it. Great one that keeps you guessing, keeps you wanting to see more. Talk to Me, similar. This one was pretty good. I didn't love it as much as I wanted to. I think the ending was a little weird. It just kind of ended suddenly. I'm like, okay, so that was the point of the movie? That didn't feel like a point of the movie. But the scary sequences are very effective. It was very freaky overall. Moving along. All right, the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. All right, I'm going to tell you right now. The first shot of this movie does not feel like the same movie. You watch the first shot of this movie and you're like, whoa, this is amazing. That is beautiful. This is cool. This is creepy. I'm ready. Then you're in for slow, low budget, paper thin plot for about an hour and 15 minutes. And it takes a while to get to the horror stuff. Leatherface is cool. In a old, genuine 70s grindhouse style, the scary sequences are scary. The violence is scary because it's one of the OGs with that. But the plot is so paper thin, you don't really know or care about the characters that much that, you know, it is more about the icing than the cake itself. I love the ending. The ending is so cool. The ending shot is amazing. So this is one of those weird movies where I just love the intro and the outro. That's it. The rest of the movie I kind of don't enjoy a ton. But I have respect for it. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. I saw it a long time ago. I barely remember it. But I know that it dives into a comedy realm. So, yeah. Texas Chainsaw Massacre Remake. I saw this a lot when I was young. I think this is somewhat legit. Somewhat of a legit horror remake. Leatherface is really scary in this one. He's awesome. Arlie Ermey is great. He is the standout of this movie. You gotta watch the movie just for him. He is both uncomfortable, unnerving, and hilarious. He's so funny. Yeah. All right, the sequel to that one, or prequel. This is where you get more into just mean-spirited. All right, it's about the violence, and that's it. Arlie Ermey's fun, though. He's in this one again. That's about it. The Thing. Sorry, 28 weeks later. You got bumped out, buddy. Because we got The Thing up in here, yo. Ooh. Okay, so earlier on the stream, I said that I never really considered Jaws a horror movie. So on paper, you remove Jaws from this list. Okay, wait, no. Let me scroll down a bit. Okay. This is what I generally consider my top 5 horror movies of all time. Right here. But if you include Jaws, then Jaws is actually up here and 28 Weeks Later is removed. So we're going to do that for now. Because I guess Jaws is technically a horror movie. The Thing is amazing. Atmosphere, unbeatable. The concept is so great. The surprises, the scares, the paranoia, it's so well done. The practical effects are god tier. This is one of the most, it is goated for that especially. I love this movie so much. I'm going to be watching it tonight with my friends. Who, real quick, actually, let me see. Oh, they've all seen it, but I think most of them have only seen it once. I think I've seen this movie like 5 or 6 times. Yeah, this is one of my favorite horror movies of all time. If you want to watch an awesome 80s, uncomfortable, paranoia-filled horror movie, this is it. It's a slow burn, and then once it really gets going, it's so awesome. I love The Thing. The Thing soft reboot, prequel, remake thing, whatever. Biggest betrayal is that they tried to do practical effects with this movie because that's what the first one was super known for. And then the studio said, we don't like it, make it CGI. So already that basically removes a 1.5 stars for any enjoyment I could have had out of this movie. That is such a betrayal to the original. How dare you? The story is serviceable. I like some of the characters. Mary Elizabeth Winstead is another actor who has appeared in multiple horror movies now. She was in 10 Cloverfield Lane, the very first one we talked about today, several hours ago. She's cool. Joel Edgerton is cool. The ending is cool. And yeah, unfortunately, it's just something where it doesn't really stand out in any way. There's really cool references to how Can you hear me now? Am I audible? Am I back now? Can you hear me? Sorry, I just realized I just saw the messages. I accidentally unplugged the mic. Am I back? I think I'm back. Well, real quick, I'll just repeat it. Okay, Town That Dreaded Sundown, not much to say. I didn't like it. I was just kind of bored throughout it. If I didn't finish my spiel on the Thing prequel, basically, it doesn't do a whole lot new from the original, and it was CGI'd. And I didn't care as the characters as much as I did about the first one, so that's why it's 2.5 stars. Train to Busan. I had heard that this was the most recent amazing zombie movie. Yes, the premise is cool. The zombies are cool. Unfortunately, the plot is there. There is some cake to this for sure, but I wanted more out of it, I guess. And I'm not scared by zombies anymore because I've seen them a million times. So, it kind of felt like, all right, we're just really building up to these fun action horror sequences, and that was it. But it was all right. Tremors. I need to see this movie again. A lot of people really like this one, sort of an underrated one. It's fun. It's a cool premise, cool main characters, really funny, ridiculous sequences. Is sort of a comedy as well. Yeah, pretty fun. Trick or Treat. A lot of people like this movie. I didn't care for it. It's an anthology movie, which is fun. You have a bunch of different storylines that are somewhat connected because it all happen on Halloween night. I love the image of this little guy. He's creepy. But it sort of was, Brian Cox, that's his second appearance now. Hell yeah. Yeah, I kind of thought that I wasn't hooked on many of the storylines. The characters acted a little ridiculous. Didn't really care about them. Yeah, that was about it. Tusk. I used to hate this movie, dude. I used to hate it. It's a gross, messed up movie. It's just a movie that, like, once you really get into it, you're like, wait, what? And then, like, there's no plot anymore, really. And if there is, I don't care. Johnny Depp gives a weird performance in this movie. As soon as he shows up in the movie, I'm like, what even is this? Who cares? So, no, I don't like Tusk. Final page. Boom! Ooh, we got another half a star movie. Am I gonna add it to, Sure, why not? We're gonna add it. We're gonna add it. Are we? We're gonna replace Resident Evil Retribution with this? Sure. Congrats, Resident Evil Retribution. You're still half a star, but you're no longer in the bottom 5. All right, so I liked Underworld. In fact, let's go in order real quick. Wait, what? Underworld doesn't count as a horror movie? Or did I not rank it? This isn't horror, but Underworld Awakening is. Wow. Okay. No, you know what? No, screw you. Screw you, bro. Oh, whoops. Wrong thing. Screw you. You don't count then. Because the others are certainly as much as you. Evil Retribution. Screw you. You're not in the bottom 5 anymore because apparently you're not a horror movie, really. Underworld, yeah. All right, we'll ignore it. It's not good. Don't watch this one. The first 2 are serviceable. Don't watch this one. Us. Aspects of Us I really like. I like the first half a lot. And I also think for comedy inserted into horror, this does a very good job. The dad character, Winston Duke, he's very funny. The initial conflict between the doppelgangers is really cool. I think the movie meanders a bit towards the end, gets a little weird and ridiculous, and the themes overtake the story. And that's where I get disconnected from it a bit. But Lupito Nyong'o, she did really great in that movie. She was awesome. Van Helsing. All right. I mean, yeah, I guess it's garbage, but it's fun garbage. I have a lot of nostalgia for this one. I have fun with this one. This one's a good time. Stephen Sommers did The Mummy. I love The Mummy. So, yeah, Van Helsing. I'm sure if I watched it now, I wouldn't like it, though. Videodrome. I saw this recently. It's weird and trippy. I kind of thought that whatever story and themes it was going for fell apart towards the end. It's a very short watch. Yeah, I wasn't that engaged watching it. I watched that recently. The Vavitch! Robert Eggers. yeah, I'm so excited to see him go back to horror. This was great. This was great atmosphere. This is right along the lines of horror that I like. It is tough to follow because they speak really weird English. It's very old world, but his commitment to the time period that he sets his films in is unmatched. It's so crazy. And The Vivitch is a wacky, trippy movie. It's very uncomfortable. The Woman, I barely remember this movie. Probably paper thin plot, a little torture porny, creepy. Yeah. Woman in Black. I really liked this movie when it first came out. It was really funny seeing Harry Potter in a horror movie. This is just a haunted house horror movie. A lot of this movie is him walking around the house getting spooked. I still like it, probably because of bias and nostalgia. Some jump scares are really effective. The ending's pretty metal as well. I think the ending's very surprising. Pretty serviceable. If you love haunted house horror movies, watch The Woman in Black. Very good. World War Z. This killed the zombie trend. Hot take. The Walking Dead buried it, but this is when zombie genre took a turn for the worst. This movie was in production hell forever. It had such a massive, overly blown budget and Brad Pitt starring in it that everyone saw it. And oh my God, this is not a zombie movie. Or at least it's not the zombie movies that I like. It's an action movie. It's ridiculous. Nothing makes sense. They don't even behave like zombies. They behave like bees or ants. No, I didn't like it. How does he survive all those plane crashes? You're next. This one's a good one. Good twist on the house invasion movie. Very gruesome, bloody, surprising as well. Pretty good. I'd recommend it. Basically, this is like a reverse version and a serious version of Ready or Not. A bit. For those who have seen both those movies, you get what I'm talking about. Finally, Zombieland. Maybe my favorite horror comedy. I think this movie genuinely is scary at times, which is what makes it such an effective horror comedy. Also very funny. Woody Harrelson, it was my introduction to him. He's a great actor. It was my introduction to Jesse Eisenberg. I think this is his best role so far. And then you got Emma Stone, who's one of the greatest actors living alive today. I've seen her in so many movies. And then Abigail Breslin, I guess she's also successful. That was what the whole trailer was with the sequel, was they're all like Oscar nominated or Oscar winners. Yeah, Zombieland's very fun, very awesome. If you love zombies, watch it. It's very funny. I never saw a sequel because I'm full. I don't need to. And there you have it. We ended 2 minutes late, at least with that. Anyway, that was every horror movie I've ever seen, all 226 or 25, because I don't count Underworld Awakening, because I guess the first two are not horror movies. But anyway, that is it for every horror movie I've ever seen. Thank you all so much, especially to the ones who stuck around for the whole thing, Brunsey, Nick Productions, anyone else who decided to watch these several hours of me talking about horror. But this was my special Halloween upload. I did not have a video to upload this time around, so instead I did an epic live stream, and I hope it was worth it. As you can see, these are now my top 5 and bottom 5. In order, my bottom 5 would go at number 5, Resident Evil Retribution. By this point, the Resident Evil franchise is dead to me. It's barely even a movie. Resident Evil Afterlife at number 4 is what ruined the franchise. I hate it. At number 3 is the Human Centipede 2 full sequence. Barely a movie, disgusting, shock value, pisses me off, horrible. At number 2, Megan is Missing. Not even really a movie, horribly made, just like terrible. Like any one of you could open up Windows Movie Maker and probably make a better movie. And just also disgusting in terms of the dialogue that they made these teenage girls say, what the actresses were put through. It's embarrassing. And then finally, number 1, August Underground's Mordum, maybe the worst movie I've ever seen. It is not a movie at all, just shock value, horrible, terribly done. Demented kids, teenagers who made that movie. Fine, you made it, but I think there's so many better things to do with your time than that. And then my top 5 movies in a way more positive light. Saw at number 5. Saw is amazing, great psychological mystery crime thriller. One of my favorite endings, twist endings to a movie ever. Just fantastic. Especially for low budget, it's so inspiring as well. Number 4, The Shining. Oh my God, atmosphere king. So just like it's a ghost story, and there's so much. Every time I think about that movie, I'm just like, it's mysterious. It's sort of one of those movies that goes beyond being a movie sometimes. Kind of feels like an actual haunted ghost story we witnessed. And there's some behind the scenes facts that kind of add to that mystery. Number 3, The Thing. Atmosphere again. Practical effects. I love the setting. I love the thing itself. Kurt Russell's amazing in that movie as well. Just great. I love that movie. I love the music too. Dun 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 dun. So simple but effective. Number 2, Jaws, one of my favorite movies of all time. Everything about that movie's great. It goes beyond just being a horror movie as well. It's like not really a horror movie, but it sort of is. There's just so much to say about Jaws, but I love it. Characters, above all, really great. And then number 1, Hereditary, to no one's surprise who's ever watched my channel. Hereditary is everything. My favorite atmosphere in any horror movie ever. I found out a fun fact that they played, maybe not a brown note, but like a low frequency note droning thing throughout pretty much every scene. And you can feel it. And that's why, as you're watching the movie, you're just never comfortable. You're always just like feeling tense. One of the craziest horror sequences in any movie ever. Saves its real horror for the end. So much to unpack. It is just so extremely inspired me in making horror movies. And I love it. And there we go. Happy Halloween, everyone. Have a great time tonight. I'm assuming most of you all are too old to go trick-or-treating, so, you know, either go to a party, hang out with friends, or watch a horror movie. I'm going to do all that. Thank you all very much for watching. Have a great Halloween. Bye-bye. How do I stop? Oh, end the stream. Bye-bye.